Chapter 231. A Lifetime of Humiliation? Ning Tian was stunned when he heard that. He could not help but chuckle. Based on what you said, it is indeed a humiliation. What a headache. Ah. Lin Ba laughed maniacally. However, before that, please die. Ning Tian's eyes turned cold. After exhausting this guy for so long, it was finally time to kill him. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Tian activated the Tao of the Void and stepped into the void. Stepping into the void, the Supreme Elder and Lin Ba both sucked in a breath of cold air. Only great emperors could do that. They were so envious of the ancestral master. The Supreme Elder's eyes were filled with envy. Boom! His aura exploded. Ning Tian appeared in the void with a flaming immortal sword in his hand. Humph! Come on, give me a quick death. Lin Ba knew that he was going to die, but he was not afraid at all. He could die without regrets after withstanding so many attacks from a Nine Tribulations great emperor. Is that so? Ning Tian smiled and whispered in Lin Ba's ear in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Actually, I am only a holy emperor. What? Impossible, Lin Ba said firmly. Can you sense it carefully? Ning Tian smiled and the chaotic aura faded a little. Lin Ba frowned and tried to sense it carefully. Immediately, he felt as if he had been struck by a powerful blow. His heart was in turmoil. The legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult is only a holy emperor? The aura that he sensed just now was indeed only a holy emperor. How is this possible? Lin Ba was completely stunned. Suddenly, he glanced at the marks on the ground and came to a realization. That's right. If this guy is really a Nine Tribulations great emperor, the power of his first attack would not be limited to just a few hundred meters. It would be the entire King City. F***ck. Lin Ba cursed angrily. He was a one-star divine emperor realm expert, the ruler of Dongxing Nation. Yet, he was being tricked by a Saint Emperor realm expert? Who the hell said that he had killed 2 Eight Tribulation great emperors? King Lin Ba, I'm truly ashamed. Ning Tian smiled as he looked at Lin Ba. His despicable voice rang in Lin Ba's ears. After all, as a Saint Emperor, I actually couldn't even land a single attack on you. Alas, I'm too weak. How humiliating. You. Hearing this, Lin Ba's eyes widened. Then, his face turned green and red. He wanted to circulate his spirit qi, but his body was already exhausted from using blood shadow flash hundreds of times. Ah! Lin Ba laughed bitterly as he looked at Ning Tian. What a great Tianma cult patriarch! What a great scheme! It's all right, Ning Tian said with a smile. I'm just average. I can only scheme against those who are dumber than me. Obviously, you are. You. Poof. Barf. Lin Ba paused and spat out a mouthful of blood. All right, I'm done with the nonsense. You can die with shame. Ning Tian smirked. He activated his sword principle and used Shadow Sword. One sword turned into 5 swords and stabbed out violently. When killing someone, one had to strike at the heart. Poof! The swords pierced through Lin Ba's body. Lin Ba, who had long lost his ability to resist, slowly lost his vitality. Then, a burst of sword radiance exploded and destroyed his soul. Only a corpse full of death energy was left. It landed heavily on the ground. The king of Dongxing country had fallen just like that. Phew, it feels good to kill a one-star boundary emperor for the first time. Ning Tian's eyes sparkled with excitement. This feeling was even better than killing 2 Eight Tribulation great emperors. After all, he had borrowed the strength of others. This time, he had purely relied on his own strength. The king. King is dead? Seeing this scene, the group of officials and commoners were stunned on the spot, as if they didn't dare to accept this fact. Lin Tsang was also stunned. He did not know what to do. At this moment there was a commotion in Monarch City. Screams could be heard continuously. After a while, a group of young men and women in black lightning armor attacked from all directions. Ancestral Master, we have completed our mission. Lin Hao's face was filled with excitement. The iron elemental armor that the Ancestral Master had improved was too powerful. It could be used for both defense and offense. Once the stored lightning tribulation energy was released, the elite soldiers of Dongxing country were unable to resist. The disciples of the heavenly demon horde looked at Ning Tian with admiration. Not only was the iron elemental armor powerful, but they also felt that their own strength had improved by leaps and bounds. All of this was related to the Ancestral Master's teachings. Ancestral Master is awesome. Forever a god. They thought to themselves. Well done. Ning Tian nodded with satisfaction. Is this the king of Dongxing country? Lin Hao looked at Lin Ba's corpse and was stunned. A one-star boundary emperor had died in front of him. It felt like a dream. Ning Tian nodded and looked at the Supreme Elder. Supreme Elder, come here for a moment. Yes, Ancestral Master. The Supreme Elder descended from the sky. He could not help but feel a little awkward. It was as if he was just a spectator in this battle, and did not do anything. Ancestral Master, are you instructing me to do something? Lead a group of disciples and destroy the Lin family, Ning Tian said calmly. Yes, Ancestral Master. The Supreme Elder nodded without hesitation. Ancestral Master, there are still men and women in the Lin family. Wouldn't it be too cruel to destroy them all? A female disciple was stunned and asked carefully. Too cruel? Ning Tian sneered and stared coldly at the female disciple as she enunciated each word clearly. Do you know that your kindness now will become a sharp blade that will kill your fellow disciples in the future? If you are kind to them, who will be kind to you? Do you know that the whereabouts of our Tianma cult disciples in Windy City were exposed by the Lin family of Dongxing country? Then who will be kind to the disciples and citizens of Windy City? Hearing this, the female disciple suddenly fell silent. What? The whereabouts of senior sister Peach and senior brother Changde were exposed by the Dongxing country's royal family? Hearing Ning Tian's words, the rest of the Tianma cult disciples' eyes flashed with murderous intent. Those who died in Windy City were senior brothers and sisters that they were familiar with. So, can you bring your blades down? Ning Tian looked calmly at the group of Tianma cult disciples and asked. Yes, we can. Lin Hao was the first to answer. Then, a series of affirmative voices rang out. Yes, we can. Suddenly, the entire royal city trembled under this deafening voice. Remember. Ning Tian looked indifferently at the group of Tianma cult disciples and said in a cold voice, although we are not absolutely evil, we are not absolutely good either. Chapter 232. Yes, Ancestral Master. Hearing Ning Tian's words, Lin Hao and the other Tianma cult disciples nodded thoughtfully. All right, let's get to work. Ning Tian waved his hand casually and said. Everyone left one after another. At this moment, all the citizens of Tianma Kingdom had gathered in one place and were looking at Ning Tian. So, submit or die. Ning Tian looked at them calmly, his tone extremely calm. As soon as he finished speaking, this group of citizens and cultivators did not hesitate at all. With a thud, they all knelt on the ground and looked at Ning Tian passionately. Ancestral Master, we choose to submit. Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at this group of citizens and cultivators. These people did not hesitate at all? Moreover, from the light in their eyes, it seemed that they did not choose to submit out of fear. That light seemed to be worship? I have long heard of the Ancestral Master's great name. It is an honor to meet you today. At this moment, a chuckle was heard. Among the crowd, a young man in a green robe and holding a folding fan slowly walked over. You are? Looking at this young man, Ning Tian frowned slightly and a glint flashed across his eyes. His first impression of this young man was not that he was strong or weak, but that he was mysterious. It was as if he could not see through him. I am Chen Gejiang. I am just a wandering poet in the Tianxian continent. I heard Tianmei Kingdom talking about the ancestral master, so I came to meet you. It is indeed interesting. Therefore, this humble one compiled the deeds of the ancestral master into an oral novel and told it in Dongxing country. The young man smiled faintly and waved his folding fan gently. You did it? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Chen Gejiang. He was also wondering why these citizens of Dongxing looked at him with admiration. These were only ordinary people. Lin Ba would definitely suppress his deeds, and it would be impossible for it to reach their ears. After all, Lin Ba hated him so much. How could he let his own people worship Ning Tian? However, Chen Gejiang had turned his story into a novel and spread it throughout Dongxing country. No wonder these people worshipped him so much. To be able to hide it from Lin Ba, it seemed that Chen Gejiang was not an ordinary person. However, heavenly charms? Ning Tian recalled the chief auctioneer wearing a red dress at the Tianbao auction. Then, he looked at Chen Gejiang. Did you just say heavenly charms? Are you from the Heavenly Treasure Holy Land or the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion? Not really. Chen Gejiang chuckled and shook his head. It's true that I'm friends with heavenly charms, but I'm not from the Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. I'm just a minstrel. Tell me, why are you helping me? Ning Tian's indifferent gaze landed on Chen Gejiang. There's no purpose. Chen Gejiang closed his fan and spread his hands. I just thought that your story would be suitable for a story, so I did it. Don't forget, ancestral master, I'm just a minstrel. So, the legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult, goodbye. Chen Gejiang slowly turned around. Wait. Ning Tian took a step forward, wanting to stop Chen Gejiang. Don't worry, ancestral master. Maybe we'll meet again one day. However, Chen Gejiang shook his head. After saying that, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. This guy. Ning Tian frowned. This guy was mysterious, and he could not tell if he was a friend or a foe. However, he did help him a lot. In Monarch City, many commoners widened their eyes as they looked at Ning Tian with respect and admiration. After hearing Chen Gejiang's story and seeing Ning Tian kill Lin Ba, the admiration in their hearts grew even stronger. Ding! Absorbing faith energy. Faith energy +2. Faith energy +1. Faith energy +3. Faith energy +1. Soon, the faith energy of many citizens in Imperial City turned into energy and rushed into Ning Tian's body. The system's voice sounded one after another. After a while, current faith energy 700,010,000. After absorbing the faith energy, Ning Tian turned around and flew toward the palace. He could only play the minstrel's story once. Next, it was time to take care of business. Somewhere in Dongxing Nation, Chen Gejiang's eyes flashed as he looked in the direction of Imperial City. The ancestral master of the Tianma cult is indeed extraordinary. Although I don't know how strong he is, he must be below the God Emperor realm. To be able to kill a one-star quasi-emperor with strength below the God Emperor realm, he's really amazing. He shook his head, then stepped into the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Divine Land City, Heavenly Treasure Pavilion. In the study, Heavenly Charm sat at the table. There was no one beside her, but there were 2 cups of steaming tea on the table. The next moment, the void in the study suddenly opened and a young man walked out. It was Chen Gejiang. Pavilion Master Chen, how was your trip this time? Heavenly Charm did not seem to be surprised by Chen Gaijiang's sudden appearance. She smiled and gently pushed one of the cups of hot tea toward Chen Gaijiang. Chen Gaijiang sat down and was not in a hurry to answer the question. Instead, he picked up the cup of tea and smelled it, then showed an intoxicated expression. Then, he took a sip. Tsk tisk. No wonder it's tea made by the Heavenly Charm tribe leader. The taste is so nostalgic. He shook his head and sighed before saying, The person you recommended is very good. It's a story that surpasses both ancient and modern times. A story that surpasses both ancient and modern times? Heavenly Charm was stunned for a moment and her eyes flashed with astonishment. Then, she covered her mouth and chuckled, her eyes flashing. He's really good to be praised by the Pavilion Master of the Heaven's Secret Pavilion, one of the top 3 forces in the firmament territory. You have a good eye too. Chun Gaijiang chuckled. After all, I'm a businessman. A businessman's eye is always sharp. Heavenly Charm chuckled and asked again, So, Pavilion Master Chun, do you have any ideas about him? I do, but I don't dare. Chun Gaijiang shook his head. You don't dare? Heavenly Charm was stunned for a moment and asked, Why? It's simple. I'm no match for the Empress of the Tianma cult. After all, I'm just a bard in dire straits. Chun Gaijiang spread out his hands and looked humble. Heavenly Charm could not help but roll her eyes. A bard in dire straits? How could a 9 tribulations great emperor say something like that? Haha, it depends on fate. If possible, I'd like to teach him the divine secret technique. Chun Gaijiang waved the folding fan in his hand and his eyes flashed. Divine secret technique? You're willing to teach him the divine secret technique? Hearing this, Heavenly Charm sucked in a breath of cold air, her beautiful eyes filled with astonishment. Of course, the divine secret technique doesn't have to be mastered by someone from the Heaven's Secret Pavilion. Whoever can make the divine secret technique shine more brilliantly will be the most suitable person. Chun Gaijiang smiled. But we'll have to wait for fate to bring us together. After that, he drank the tea in one gulp. In short, you'll only gain from this deal. By the way, I have to thank the Heavenly Charm clan leader for sharing such a good story with me. Ha ha ha. After laughing, Chun Gaijiang turned and disappeared into the void. Chapter 233. What a strange man. He's the leader of a region, but he likes to wander the world. Tian Mei looked in the direction Chun Gaijiang had left and shook her head. Clan leader, according to the Pavilion Master, the Tianma cult's patriarch is worth our efforts. A voice sounded at this moment. In the shadows of the study room, Old Tu, whose hair was black and white, appeared once again. I've told you that the Tianma cult's patriarch is not ordinary. The corner of Heavenly Charm's mouth curled into a confident smile. Her judgment had never been wrong. After laughing, Heavenly Enchantress sighed. It's a pity that the Ancestral Master has never been personally involved despite recent business dealings with the Sky Demon cult, so there's no chance for contact. I can't meet him either, or he'll see through me. There's no other way. The Empress of the Tianma cult is too powerful. Even in the firmament territory, she's the strongest. Elder Tu sighed and shook his head. Let's leave it at that. Heavenly Charm sighed faintly as she thought of something. Oh yeah, Old Tu, have you found out who the 2 foreign great emperors that died in the hands of our patriarch are? No. Elder Tu paused and shook his head. Forget it. Let's leave it at that. Tian Mei's eyes flashed. No one knew what her purpose was. In the imperial palace of the Dongxing country, the Supreme Elder and the other elders, who had just rushed over, looked at Ning Tian, who had arranged everything in an orderly manner, with admiration in their eyes. They did not expect the patriarch to be so good at dividing the work. Well, I'll leave it to you to complete the tasks I've given you. After giving out the final instructions, Ning Tian looked at the group of elders and slowly said, Don't worry. Once these tasks were completed, the entire Dongxing country would be replaced and run again. Yes, Patriarch. The Supreme Elder and the others nodded. At this moment, Lin Hao and several other disciples ran over with serious faces. Patriarch, we've found something big. Something big? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and asked with a hint of interest, What is it? In the underground prison of Dongxing, we found a demonic beast that we had never seen before. Its aura is enormous and extremely ferocious. Lin Hao frowned as he spoke in a serious tone. Demonic beast? Ning Tian narrowed his eyes and pondered for a moment. Then, he said to Lin Hao, "Where? Take me there." "Yes." Lin Hao nodded. "Ancestral Master, please follow me." When Ning Tian followed Lin Hao to the underground prison in King City, the group of disciples were all on high alert as they stared solemnly at the huge cage. When they saw that Ning Tian had arrived, they all heaved a sigh of relief. "Patriarch! Greetings, Ancestral Master!" All the disciples bowed. "Yes." Ning Tian nodded and looked at the cage in front of him. Within it there was a huge shadow that was dozens of meters tall. Its body was covered in flames and its limbs were on the ground. It looked like a flaming lion. Its eyes were cold as it looked at Ning Tian and the rest. Its eyes were filled with sarcasm. "This is..." Ning Tian was puzzled. The aura of this demonic beast was completely different from the one in his imperial beast gourd. It had the aura of a king among demonic beasts. "Host, this is a rank 4 demonic beast, the Flame Lion King. However, it should have the bloodline of an ancient demonic beast king. It is recommended to capture it." The system's voice sounded. "Only a rank 4 demonic beast?" Ning Tian frowned slightly. A rank 4 demonic beast was a little low. However, with the bloodline of an ancient demonic beast, there was a possibility of awakening it. "Big guy, although your level is a little low, I will reluctantly take you in." Roar. The Flame Lion King in the cage was stunned for a moment. Then, its eyes were filled with disdain. "A mere human dares to spout such nonsense? Subdue Master Lion? What a joke! Open the cage." Ning Tian waved his hand at Lin Hao. "Yes, Ancestral Master." Lin Hao and the rest believed in Ning Tian. Without hesitation, they pressed the mechanism beside the cage. Then, with a rumble, the door of the cage slowly opened. Creak, creak. Then, an old sound rang out. In the cage, an angry roar sounded. Roar. The group of disciples was shocked by the angry roar. They quickly retreated and kept a safe distance. Anyway, they could leave the rest to their ancestral master. Roar. The Flame Lion King's eyes were filled with coldness. It crawled and looked at the young man who was still standing in the same place. After a second of hesitation, its body moved and turned into a burning meteor, pouncing towards Ning Tian. Seeing this, Ning Tian's expression was calm. There was not a trace of fear. A faint light flashed on his storage ring. The immortal slashing Guzheng appeared in front of him. He gently plucked the strings. Then, the sound of beasts was played. Clang. With the sound of the music, the Flame Lion King slowed down significantly. Clang. With the second sound, the Flame Lion King's body was forced to stop. Clang. After the third sound of the music, a light shrouded the Flame Lion King's body. The ferocity in its eyes dissipated. The sound of beasts dissipated. The Flame Lion King's eyes were full of submission. Roar. At this moment, the Flame Lion King was as obedient as a kitten. "TSK, TSK. The Ancestral Master is still your Ancestral Master." The ferocious beast was subdued in an instant. Seeing this, Lin Hao and the other disciples shook their heads and sighed. "Flame Lion King, come here." The immortal slashing Guzheng in Ning Tian's hand slowly dissipated. He looked at the Flame Lion King and said calmly, "Roar." The Flame Lion King obediently came over. "Why did Lin Ba capture you?" Ning Tian asked calmly. Roar, roar, roar. At the mention of this, the Flame Lion King's face turned bitter. It roared a few times. Roar, roar, oh go on. Roar, roar. And, seeing Ning Tian nodding his head seriously, Lin Hao and the others were confused. Was the Ancestral Master talking to a demon beast? After a while, Ning Tian suddenly realized, so that's how it is? According to the Flame Lion King, this guy was caught by Lin Ba when he was having sex with a lioness. It seemed that Lin Ba was planning to give it to the Imperial Beast sect of the Righteous Tao Alliance. However, before the plan could be implemented, it was interrupted by Ning Tian. "You're really pitiful." Ning Tian glanced at the Flame Lion King and said calmly, "Follow me from now on. Be the guardian demon beast of my Tianma cult." Roar, roar. The Flame Lion King nodded heavily. Its eyes flickered with a faint light. It roared twice, roar, 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 roar. And? Ning Tian frowned slightly. There's no lioness, don't even think about it. Roar. The Flame Lion King was disappointed. Seeing this scene, Lin Hao and the other disciples couldn't help but laugh. So this was a perverted lion. But no one would have thought that such a perverted lion would become a peerless beast king many years later. It could swallow an entire region in one bite. Chapter 234. On a tall mountain in the Tianma cult, Ning Tian grumbled gloomily as he crawled out of a human-shaped crater, his face covered in dirt. Isn't it just a punch? My wife is so cute and won't cry. System. Host, I have 100 cultivation methods for straight men here. Would you like to study them? Why would I study those things? I'm not straight, Ning Tian said unhappily. There were always people who couldn't see their true nature, and the system was too lazy to talk nonsense. It's the Ancestral Master. Greetings, Ancestral Master. At this moment, the surprised voices of two women rang out beside him. Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. He looked over and saw two patrolling female disciples of the Tianma cult passing by. At this moment, their little faces were slightly red, and their gazes were somewhat evasive, not daring to look at him. Ning Tian couldn't help but feel puzzled. When did he, a disciple of the Tianma cult, become so shy? The wily old foxes of the Jade Lake weren't like this. Suddenly, a cool breeze blew past. Ning Tian felt that the lower half of his body seemed to be somewhat cool. Cool? Ning Tian was startled and looked down. F***ck. Immediately, without hesitation, he first covered his body with a stream of spiritual energy, then put on his pants with a rustling sound. Cough. Ning Tian's old face reddened. He coughed dryly and looked at the two blushing female disciples, trying to redeem his image as an honorable and high and mighty ancestral master. Running around naked in broad daylight, no matter how one looked at it, he was a big pervert, right? Don't think too much. The reason I'm not wearing clothes, Ancestral Master, is because I'm feeling the nourishment of the sun. This way, I can absorb spiritual energy more comprehensively and increase my cultivation speed. Ning Tian said in all seriousness. So that's how it is? Hearing this, the two female disciples were convinced. Their eyes flickered with an eager luster. Seeing this scene, Ning Tian had a bad feeling. If Luo Wuqing knew about this, wouldn't he think that he was a beast who deceived an ignorant girl into being naked? Cough, cough. This method is not suitable for girls, so you won't be able to try it, Ning Tian quickly added. Hearing this, the two female disciples were obviously a little disappointed and sighed slightly. I see. Yes? Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief and ordered, "All right, you guys continue your patrol." After that, he turned around and left with his tail between his legs. The two female disciples looked at Ning Tian's back with adoring eyes. Ancestral Master is so powerful, to be able to invent such a cultivation method. Yes, as expected of the legend of our Tianma cult. It's just a pity that I'm not a man. Otherwise, I would also learn from the patriarch. Perhaps my cultivation would really be faster. Sigh, yes, what a pity. The two female disciples sighed. But the patriarch's figure is so good, I like him so much. Damn girl, the patriarch is the empress's man. How dare you have such thoughts? Senior sister, do you like the younger one? What nonsense are you talking about? Cough, cough, I'm talking about age. You damn girl. Soon, the sound of two female disciples fighting could be heard not far away. Ning Tian, who hadn't gone far, staggered and almost fell from the sky. These disciples were really tough these days. But for these 5,000 people, I'll go to the Grand Elder to test them first. Ning Tian murmured and flashed to a place. Sky Devil Plaza. A group of Tianma cult and Jade Lake disciples were cultivating together. The The Grand Elder was talking to Elder Qing Yi of Jade Lake about the cultivation problems of the Tianma cult and Jade Lake disciples. His face was beaming with joy and he looked very proud. He felt as if he had returned to the time when he was young. Sai, the patriarch, built this teleportation pillar. It's really the best thing my Tianma cult has done in so many years. I finally don't have to be alone anymore. The Grand Elder sighed in his heart. Grand Elder, are you listening to what I just said? Elder Qing Yi looked at the dazed Grand Elder and couldn't help but ask in confusion. Cough, cough. I'm listening. The Grand Elder immediately woke up from his daze, coughed dryly, and laughed heartily. I think Elder Qing Ye's words are feasible. Cultivation isn't just about cultivation. If we spar with each other, it's indeed beneficial to improve our strength. Then it's settled. Elder Qing Ye's smile stunned the Grand Elder for a long time. TSK. Is the Grand Elder's spring coming? Seeing this scene, the surrounding Tianma cult disciples couldn't help but click their tongues and sigh. Compared to the Grand Elder's spring, these disciples thought that their spring would also come. However, when these Jade Lake disciples arrived, they sadly discovered that the person they liked was their patriarch. It was impossible for them. Sigh. If you lose to the patriarch, then it's fine. It's normal. The group of Tianma cult disciples didn't think too much about it. After all, it was that man. Whoosh. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air suddenly rang out, followed by hearty laughter that resounded throughout the entire Tianma square. Grand Elder, come quickly and let me punch you. This voice, it's the patriarch? Is the patriarch here? Hearing the voice, the group of Tianma cult and Jade Lake disciples all showed a touch of excitement and looked up at the sky. Sure enough, in the sky, Ning Tian stepped out of the void and landed on the square. Greetings, patriarch. The Grand Elder and Elder Qing Yi both bowed to Ning Tian. Ning Tian waved his hand and said impatiently to the Grand Elder, "Don't be so flashy. Let me punch you first." What? The Grand Elder was stunned and didn't recover from his shock. Patriarch, you want to punch me? Yes. Ning Tian nodded and raised his fist seriously. Don't worry, it won't hurt. It'll be quick. The corner of the Grand Elder's mouth twitched as he looked at Ning Tian's sandbag-sized fist. This old man will die under this punch, right? For the patriarch, this old man will not hesitate. However, before you punch me, please wait, patriarch. The Grand Elder looked as if he was facing death calmly. He looked at Elder Qing Yi and picked up her wrinkled hand. Under her shocked gaze, he slowly said, "Junior sister Qing Yi, this old man actually likes..." Ouch. Before the Grand Elder could finish speaking, he was sent flying. Elder Qing Yi was stunned and didn't know what to do. Dilly-dallying. Ning Tian mumbled to herself as she stretched her wrist. Seeing the Grand Elder fly out, the group of Tianma cult disciples sighed and looked sad. Sigh. It's too tragic. Rest in peace, Grand Elder. We'll definitely burn the most beautiful paper figurine wife for you. We'll fulfill your wish. The Grand Elder is too pitiful. He seemed to be a 1,000-year-old virgin before he died. They shook their heads. How could he not die after being punched by the patriarch, a nine tribulations great emperor? Chapter 235. The punch landed. Ning Tian checked the mission reward card. Fist comprehension, 4999500. I'm still 4,999 punches away, but it should be soon, Ning Tian muttered. He looked at the group of disciples in the square with a glimmer of light in his eyes. Immediately after, he looked at the first elder who was lying on the ground not far away with a tragic look. He couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. Don't pretend to be dead. I used all my strength, so I won't die. He didn't die? The group of disciples was stunned. As expected, the first elder who was lying on the ground scratched his head and got up. Ahem. Ancestral Master, I'm just playing along with you. The first elder coughed dryly and said sternly with a straight face. Don't. You'd better turn a blind eye. Ning Tian glanced at him indifferently and said, Hurry up and see if there are any changes in your Dao attainments. Comprehension of Dao attainments? Hearing this, the first elder was stunned. Immediately after, he closed his eyes and sensed it slightly. In the demonic square, Elder Qing Yi and a group of Tianma cult disciples and Jade Lake Sacred Ground disciples all looked at the first elder with some confusion. The ancestral master suddenly punched the first elder and asked him to see his own comprehension of Dao attainments. Could it be that there was a necessary connection between the two? After a while, damn! Suddenly, the first elder's tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, and a ray of light burst out from his eyes. He was very excited. My sword Dao attainments that have stagnated for hundreds of years have actually improved? His attainments that had not improved for hundreds of years had improved at this moment? The group of disciples was stunned for a moment before they reacted. With smiles on their faces, they looked at the first elder and congratulated. Congratulations, first elder. Congratulations. Elder Qing Yi also smiled slightly. The first elder was immersed in this joy when he suddenly realized something and looked at Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, after that punch landed on me, I felt a trace of sword intent flowing. Could it be that it was the Ancestral Master's punch that improved my sword Dao attainments? Exactly. Ning Tian nodded with a smile and did not deny it. Then, he looked at the group of disciples calmly. That punch just now is called the Fist of Enlightenment, and it was created by me personally. Not only will you not die from it, you will also be able to increase your comprehension. There are only 4,999 slots left. What? Upon hearing this, Elder Qing Yi was dumbfounded. Behind him, both the Tianma cult disciples and the Jade Lake disciples were dumbfounded. I gave you a punch, and your comprehension improved? It wasn't just outrageous, it was simply heaven-defying. Is this the person chosen by the Holy Lord? You are indeed ridiculously powerful. Elder Qing Yi looked at Ning Tian with bright eyes. At this moment, she suddenly understood why the Queen Mother trusted her ancestors so much. The Ancestral Master was not only a great emperor himself, but he could also guide the cultivation of others. You have shocked a group of disciples. Reward: Aura cultivation plus 5,000. As soon as the system's voice fell, Ning Tian's aura surged by a small amount. Is there anyone who wants to try it? Ning Tian looked at the group of disciples and smiled. As soon as he said that, the heavenly demon square fell into a long silence. However, the silence was soon broken. A disciple shouted, Ancestral Master, I'm itching for a beating, please hammer me. Soon, more and more disciples reacted. Ancestral Master, I go against my conscience and say that you are really ugly, please hammer me. I'm begging for a hammer. I'm begging for a hammer online. Ancestral Master, I'm begging you, please hammer me to death. Many disciples on the demonic square were wailing in agony. Their eyes flickered. It sounded like a strange request, but now they were so calm when they said it. After all, who wouldn't want to be punched to increase their comprehension? For example, if being beaten could make one stronger, then please beat them to death. Ancestral Master, my body is not bad. If you don't mind, please give me a punch. At the side, Elder Qing Yi said with a serious face. Don't worry, take your time. I have plenty of fists. The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled up into a smile. If this continued, the 5,000 punches would be over soon. Come, line up, one by one. Next, the disciples obediently lined up one by one. Then, the sound of fists hitting flesh resounded in the heavenly demon square. Many disciples passed by and saw the disciples being beaten up by the Ancestral Master. They thought that they had done something wrong. However, when they understood, they were instantly excited and lined up obediently. Soon, in the heavenly demon square, voices of pain and joy sounded. My entertainment Dao has broken through. Although it hurts a little, it's worth it. Ah! My comprehension of Tao has also broken through. Ancestral Master's fist is simply awesome. On the score panel in Ning Tian's mind, the number also jumped. 4,998. 4,995. 4,000. Following the commotion, many disciples and elders were attracted to the square. Each of them widened their eyes and couldn't help but exclaim in their hearts, "The Ancestral Master is simply a god, as expected of an eternal god." Soon, this sentence spread throughout the Tianma cult. Taking a punch from the Ancestral Master, one's comprehension of Tao can reach 100 levels. In the study of the Heavenly Demon Palace, Luo Wuqing put down the matter in her hands and revealed a tired expression. She stretched lazily, her long skirt outlining her graceful curves to the extreme. Then, she stepped out of the study. When she saw a group of elders and disciples running towards the Heavenly Demon Square, she couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. She stopped an elder and asked, "Why are you in such a hurry? What are you going to do?" "Empress, we are going to take a punch from the Ancestral Master." The elder looked at Luo Wuqing very respectfully and said carefully, What do you mean?" Hearing this, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes could not help but flash with astonishment. "It's like this." Soon after, the elder slowly explained the situation to him. "Oh? Taking a punch from him can improve one's comprehension?" Luo Wuqing asked. She wasn't too surprised. After all, this kind of thing seemed outrageous, but it didn't seem so unacceptable when it happened to Ning Tian. After all, that guy could even borrow the strength of an Emperor Realm expert. Compared to that, this was nothing. "Alright, then you can go." Luo Wuqing waved her hand casually. Her comprehension had already reached the highest level of the Great Emperor Realm. Even if she took a punch, it wouldn't improve. She didn't want to join in the fun. She had important things to do now. She had to arrange for people to investigate the item left behind by the demon god. Chapter 236. 2 short days passed. There were only a few dozen punches left out of the 5,000 punches. After all, Ning Tian wasn't beating people up all day and night. He wasn't that brutal yet. Moreover, this fist comprehension was only effective for those who had comprehended the Tao. Heavenly Demon Plaza. "Who else wants to take a punch from me?" Ning Tian's voice sounded at this moment. He looked at the disciples and elders around him and couldn't help but feel a little worried. He had already beaten up all the disciples and elders who had comprehended the Tao. Now there were only a dozen people left. He couldn't find anyone else. Do you want to be beaten up?" "Ancestral Master, I've already done it." "What about you?" "Me too," Ning Tian asked many people, but the result was the same. Many disciples who hadn't comprehended the Tao were looking at him eagerly. They couldn't wait to comprehend a Tao now and then let the Ancestral Master punch them. However, how could the comprehension of a Tao be so simple? Not everyone was an Ancestral Master. It was so ridiculous. Boom! At this moment, a rumble sounded in the Heavenly Demon Plaza. Everyone's attention was attracted. They saw that the huge teleportation pillar began to flicker with golden light. The ancient characters and some complicated formations were lit up. Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly and looked over. In front of the teleportation pillar, a teleportation portal stood up. Then, a figure flashed. A woman in a purple dress with a veil on her face took the lead and stepped out of the portal. It was the Queen Mother of the West. Behind her, Yaoqi Saintess and dozens of Jade Lake elders followed. Why is this woman here?" Ning Tian was stunned for a moment, and a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. However, he quickly put his doubts aside. Since the Queen Mother of the West and the other women were here, then there was someone he was worried about. A glint flashed in his eyes. Then, he leaped into the air and rushed toward the Queen Mother of the West excitedly. Queen Mother of the West. Patriarch? When Shi Wangmu heard the sound and saw Ning Tian charging over, she felt stunned. Fluster flashed in her beautiful eyes as her heart raced. Ever since she parted ways with the ancestral master a few days ago, she couldn't control her longing for Ning Tian. The warmth and softness of his lips against hers stimulated her brain even more. At night she couldn't fall asleep. Her mind was filled with thoughts of Ning Tian. It seems that the ancestral master missed me very much. Seeing Ning Tian's excited expression, the Queen Mother of the West felt as if she had eaten a piece of honey. She felt exceptionally sweet in her heart. Silly woman. This guy didn't miss you, he wanted to beat you up. Queen Mother of the West, quickly. This is an emergency in the martial world. Let me punch you. As expected, Ning Tian rushed to the Queen Mother of the West and said this first sentence. Wawami. The Queen Mother of the West was slightly stunned. A hint of confusion flashed in her beautiful eyes. As Elder Qin Yi and the other disciples who came to the Tianma cult had yet to return, she didn't know what Ning Tian was going to do. Wami. Haha. What hammer? But soon, the Queen Mother of the West came to her senses. She licked her red lips and looked at Ning Tian with a teasing look in her beautiful eyes. Something's wrong with you. Ning Tian rolled his eyes at the Queen Mother of the West. This woman still found an opportunity to tease him. She was indeed an old fool. He shook his head and told her about the general comprehending the fist technique. Behind him, Yaoqi Saintus and the others were stunned when they heard this. He took a punch from the ancestral master and comprehended more than 100 levels? There was such a good thing? A hint of shock flashed in the eyes of the Jade Lake's disciples. However, after thinking about it carefully, if it was the ancestral master who said it, it didn't seem so unacceptable. It was quite normal? You have slightly shocked the Jade Lake disciples. Rewarded spiritual energy cultivation level plus 1000. As the system's voice fell, Ning Tian's huge spiritual ocean expanded a little. How about it? Do you want to give me a punch? Ning Tian looked at the Queen Mother of the West with a smile. Come on. The Queen Mother of the West chuckled, then looked at Ning Tian and said meaningfully, But how are you going to hit me, ancestral master? As she spoke, she straightened her body. The scenery was as beautiful as a painting. Ning Tian was silent for a moment and gritted his teeth. This demoness. As soon as she appeared, she started to play with him. I'm a decent person. Anywhere is fine. Anyway, it's just a matter of one punch. Ning Tian was too lazy to think about it. There were only a few dozen punches left. The sooner he finished, the sooner he could receive the reward. Haha. Ancestral master, come on then. The Queen Mother of the West covered her mouth and chuckled. Her bell-like laughter was pleasing to the ear and tugged at the heartstrings, making someone clench his teeth tightly. Coming. Ning Tian took a deep breath. Then, his gaze darkened. Spirit energy enveloped his fist, and a burst of light flickered. This was the fist of enlightenment. Bang! He aimed at the Queen Mother of the West's back and threw a punch. The wind from the punch whistled. Although it wasn't strong, it was full of momentum. But just as the punch was about to land on her back, the Queen Mother of the West suddenly turned around. Therefore, the punch landed where it shouldn't have. It was soft. In fact, Ning Tian even felt his fist bouncing back. It was ridiculously soft. F***CK. Ning Tian exclaimed in his heart. Coach, I want to report her. She's really dribbling the ball to hit me. This is the second time. The punch landed. Ning Tian heaved a heavy sigh of relief. He gritted his teeth and looked at the woman. How is it? Do you feel that your attainments have improved? Yes. The Queen Mother of the West sensed it very seriously. Then, she spread her hands and chuckled. No improvement? Ning Tian frowned. Could it be that the fist comprehension had failed? It's because my Tao has already reached the highest level of the Great Emperor. I can't comprehend it. The Queen Mother of the West spread her hand. Her face was filled with innocence. 3 question marks popped up in Ning Tian's head. She rolled her eyes at her and said, You've already comprehended the highest level, and you still want me to hammer you? Well, the Queen Mother of the West gave it a serious thought. Because I want to be punched by the founder. Ning Tian was speechless. This woman was completely hopeless. Then, he ignored the Queen Mother of the West and looked at Yaoqi Saintus and the others. Saintus, how about it? Do you want me to punch you? Hearing that, Yaoqi Saintus and the others would not let go of such a good opportunity. All of them nodded. Yaoqi Saintus looked at Ning Tian. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Then, thank you, Founder. It's not a big deal. Come, it won't hurt. It'll be over soon. Ning Tian waved his hand casually. Then, he rubbed his hands and walked toward Yaoqi Saintus and the others. Boom! Bang! As the Jade Lake Saintus and the other girls slowly got up from the ground, they were surprised to find that the Tao they had comprehended was indeed improving. Chapter 237. Clang. A ray of light circulated around Yaoqi Saintus's body, followed by the sound of Tao of music. After a while, the sound of Tao of music slowly dissipated. Feeling the changes in her body, Yaoqi Saintus couldn't help but be stunned. After a while, a look of joy appeared in her beautiful eyes. The Tao of music that had troubled her for a long time actually improved at this moment. Thank you, Ancestral Master! Yaoqi Saintus's excited gaze landed on Ning Tian. No worries. Ning Tian waved his hand casually and heaved a sigh of relief. The mission of beating 5,000 people was finally over. Fist Enlightenment 05000. The host has completed the mission. The Fist Enlightenment function has failed. Opening the mission reward card. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Eye of Perception. Eye of Perception. At the cost of consuming spiritual energy, the Eye of Perception can be activated. The Eye of Perception can be seen through natural phenomena, natural treasures, and so on. The system's voice kept ringing in his mind at this moment. Eye of Perception? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly. Can this thing see through things? System. Host, please don't have such strange thoughts. The system is absolutely serious. I won't tell you. It's absolutely possible. Ning Tian instantly fell silent. This system is old and indecent. Immediately, Ning Tian looked at the Queen Mother of the West and started talking about serious matters. Queen Mother of the West, why are you here? Well, a mischievous look flashed across the Queen Mother of the West's eyes. She smiled and winked at Ning Tian. Make a guess? Ning Tian. I called her here. At this moment, a cold voice sounded. In the sky, a beautiful figure stepped out of the void. A fragrant wind blew, and the fragrance assailed his nostrils. Luo Wuqing landed beside Ning Tian in the blink of an eye. Wife? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. He did not expect that Luo Wuqing would take the initiative to call the Queen Mother of the West over. After all, these two women could be said to be full of gunpowder. If these two women touched each other and started fighting, no one in the entire heavenly spirit realm would dare to stop them. Who could withstand this? Are you sure you won't fight? In order to ensure his own safety, Ning Tian cautiously looked at the two women and asked. Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West seemed to have discussed this beforehand. They both said in unison, no. That's good. Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he looked at the two girls suspiciously. Then what do you want to do? Come with us and you'll know, Luo Wuqing said. Then, he exchanged a glance with the Queen Mother of the West and nodded. Then, each of them grabbed one of Ning Tian's arms and stepped into the void. Looking at the direction in which the three of them disappeared, the group of Tianma cult disciples was filled with envy. Their ancestral master was really a role model for their generation. Not only did he have so many beauties, but he also had the Empress and the Jade Lake sacred leader. Sigh. I envy our ancestral master. The group of disciples sighed. Perhaps this was their ancestral master's spring? In the study of the heavenly demon palace. A void opened, and Ning Tian and the other two appeared in the study. Stepping into the study, the Queen Mother of the West let out a puzzled sound. She sniffed lightly and murmured, "There seems to be a strange smell in this study." Hearing this, Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing, who had done bad things in the past, felt their hearts skip a beat. The Queen Mother of the West's nose was too sensitive. It had been 2 days and she could still smell it? Sigh, young people nowadays are so wild. TSK. The Queen Mother of the West glanced at the two of them and said with a hint of jealousy in her tone. For a moment there was a subtle atmosphere in the study. Ahem. Ning Tian coughed dryly and took the initiative to break the awkward atmosphere. He looked at Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West and frowned slightly. He said, "So, my wife, Queen Mother of the West, what do you two want to talk about?" Seeing that Ning Tian had brought up the main topic, the two women also became serious. "The reason why I used the Great Emperor's voice transmission to summon the Queen Mother of the West is because of that demon god," Luo Wuqing said slowly with a serious tone. "Demon god?" Ning Tian was stunned and his frown deepened. "No, to be precise, it should be about that demon god's lost item," Luo Wuqing corrected and said again. "Lost item? My wife, you found that demon god's lost item?" Hearing this, Ning Tian's eyes lit up. "While you were beating people up for the past 2 days, I've been sending people to investigate that demon god's lost item. Finally, a few hours ago, I received a message from the Great Compassion Palace. According to the Palace Master of the Great Compassion Palace, he found some strange reactions in the land of the fallen gods in the North State. The land of the fallen gods is covered by clouds and the sun, and there are often demonic sounds in the land of the fallen gods. Therefore, I deduced that the demon god's lost item is most likely in the land of the fallen god." Luo Wuqing looked at the two of them. His red lips parted slightly as he spoke slowly. The Great Compassion Palace? Ning Tian was stunned. He knew about the Great Compassion Palace. It was located in the North State of the Tianling domain, and it was an emperor-level force of the demon path. Its strength was not bad. However, land of the fallen gods. What is that? Ning Tian's puzzled gaze landed on the two women. Hearing this, the two Nine Tribulations' great emperors, Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West, became serious. The Queen Mother of the West frowned and explained in a serious tone. "The land of the fallen gods is the place where godly state experts fell. It is said that millions of years ago, there was a battle between gods in the North State. 2 godly state experts fought so fiercely that it was as if the sky was about to fall. That battle lasted for a few hundred years. In the end, both of them fell in the North State. Their corpses and blood essence turned into a huge amount of energy and formed the land of the fallen gods today. Even after millions of years, the land of the fallen gods still exudes a terrifying aura." The fall of godly state experts? Hearing the Queen Mother of the West's words, Ning Tian frowned slightly. Even after millions of years, the aura that was left behind was still terrifying. Could it be that they were godly state experts who had surpassed the ancestor god realm? The Queen Mother of the West said helplessly, "However, there is a strange phenomenon in the land of the fallen gods. The stronger one is, the stronger the aura and vice versa." "So, what do you mean?" At this time, Ning Tian more or less understood. If that was the case, Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West could not go there anymore. Both of them were Nine Tribulations' great emperors. If they went to the land of the fallen gods, they would be restrained by the remaining aura. After all, the gap between a great emperor and a godly state expert was huge. Chapter 238. Neither of us can enter the land of the fallen gods. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes were filled with worry as she looked at Ning Tian. "However, I will summon the Supreme Elder back and let him accompany you to the Great Compassion Palace in the North region. However, I'm afraid you have to enter the land of the fallen gods alone." Okay, I understand. Ning Tian nodded. If the lost item of the true demon was really in the land of the fallen gods, he had no reason not to go. How could something that even a demon god was looking for be an ordinary item? He was not willing to let go of any opportunity to become stronger. Looking at Luo Wuqing's worried expression, he could not help but feel a trace of warmth in his heart. This silly wife. Then, Ning Tian smiled at Luo Wuqing and gestured for her to relax. Don't worry, wife. Don't you know me? I'm a miracle. Bah, shameless, the Queen Mother of the West spat. Although that's the case, we've decided to plant the 9 Tribulations protective array on your body just to be on the safe side, Luo Wuqing said solemnly. Although she believed in Ning Tian, her worries didn't disappear just because of that. Although the land of the fallen gods hadn't sent out any signs of danger for so many years, it was still very dangerous. However, it was always good to have insurance. Okay. Ning Tian also knew that the 2 women were doing this for his own good, so he did not show off. After nodding, he simply agreed. It was always good to have a life-saving measure. Come. Luo Wuqing extended her slender finger and pointed at the chair without a back. She said to Ning Tian, "Husband, sit there." Ning Tian walked over and slowly sat down. Then, Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West walked over. One in front and the other behind, blocking all of Ning Tian's escape routes. What are you doing? Seeing this scene, Ning Tian's heart suddenly became restless for some reason. Honey, it's not good for so many people to exercise in broad daylight, right? Ning Tian swallowed his saliva as he looked at the peerless face that was just inches away from him. Mass sports my ass. A few black lines appeared on Luo Wuqing's forehead. She gritted her teeth and said, "You old pervert, shut up. Sit down and don't talk anymore." Haha. Ancestor, if Luo Wuqing is unwilling, in fact, I am very willing. How about, Shi Wangmu giggled. However, before she finished speaking, a cold gaze stared at her. She could only shrug and blink at Ning Tian helplessly. Then, Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West forcibly pressed Ning Tian into the chair. They pulled off his shirt and began to inscribe arrays on him. He felt 2 pairs of soft hands floating in front and behind him, bringing with them waves of coolness. Ning Tian couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. At this moment, he finally understood what it meant to be at the peak of life. Phew. Half an hour later. When the 2 pairs of hands left, Ning Tian heaved a heavy sigh of relief with a satisfied look on his face. The rich, spiritual energy in front and behind him slowly dissipated. The light of the 2 9 Tribulations protective arrays also slowly dissipated at this moment. The 9 Tribulations protective arrays were formed by the blood essence and spiritual energy of the 9 Tribulations Great Emperor. Once Ning Tian encountered any fatal danger, the Great Emperor energy in the 9 Tribulations protective arrays would jump out to protect him. Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West could also sense it immediately. At that time, even if the land of the fallen gods would exert pressure on the 2 women, they couldn't care less. Honey, when should I go? Ning Tian stood up from the chair and stretched his back. He looked at Luo Wuqing and asked, "When the Supreme Elder comes back, you can go." Okay. A few hours later, the Supreme Elder finally rushed back after dealing with the affairs of the Dongxing nation. He came to the front of the Heavenly Demon Palace. "Greetings, Ancestral Master." "Greetings, Empress." "Greetings, Jade Lake Sacred Leader." The Supreme Elder bowed slightly to the 3 of them. "Supreme Elder, go to the Great Compassion Palace in the North Province with the Ancestral Master now." Luo Wuqing looked at the Supreme Elder and instructed, "Yes, Master." Without any hesitation, the Supreme Elder nodded his head and agreed to it. He didn't complain at all. After all, he was just a ruthless overtime tool. After dealing with the affairs of the Dongxing nation, he had to go to the Great Compassion Palace again. "Ancestral Master, when are we leaving?" The Supreme Elder looked at Ning Tian and asked. "Now," Ning Tian said with a slight smile. He was now very interested in the lost item of the demon god, and couldn't wait to see it. Husband. Just as the two of them turned around and were about to leave, Luo Wuqing's voice sounded in the main hall. What's wrong? Ning Tian turned around and looked at Luo Wuqing in confusion. If you encounter something that you can't solve, just call me. Don't worry about the pressure from the land of the fallen gods. Compared to the influence of the pressure, your safety is more important. Luo Wuqing's red lips parted slightly. This time, she was surprised to see that the layer of coldness on her face had faded away. Ning Tian smiled when he heard that. I won't let my wife worry. Hurry up, hurry up. Don't torture the single person. The Queen Mother of the West was jealous. She pouted and urged them with a look of disdain. Ha ha. Wife, Queen Mother of the West, I'll take my leave first. Ning Tian smiled and turned around to leave with the Supreme Elder. The two of them leaped and appeared a few thousand meters above the ground. Then, their bodies moved and disappeared in the blink of an eye. North State, Great Compassion Palace. A middle-aged man was pacing back and forth in the main hall anxiously. Many elders in the main hall were looking at him. Palace Master, it's useless to be anxious now. An elder looked at the middle-aged man and sighed with a frown. Elderly, how can I not be anxious? The abnormalities that have occurred in the land of the fallen gods recently have made me a little worried. The middle-aged man sighed and frowned. You and the others are also trapped in there. We don't know if they're dead or alive. As their father, I can't do anything. Sigh. Upon hearing this, the elders of Great Compassion Palace in the hall fell silent. The land of the fallen gods was a place to suppress the strong. However, it was an extremely suitable place for the weak to train. The strange situation in the land of the fallen gods had given them a headache recently. It happened so suddenly that even some of the disciples who were training in the land of the fallen gods did not manage to withdraw in time. Among them was the young Palace Master Yiyu. Palace Master, didn't you ask the Tianma cult for help? The Tianma cult is getting stronger and stronger, and they've secured their position as the leader of the demon path. I wonder who they'll send to help us? Elderly said slowly. It would be great if the ancestral master came. You and the others will be saved. Yi Bei, the palace master of the Great Compassion Palace, sighed. The ancestral master of the Tianma cult? Excitement flashed in the eyes of the Great Compassion Palace's elders when they heard this. The ancestral master of the Tianma cult was truly a legend. Who in the celestial spirit realm would disrespect him? The ancestral master of the Tianma cult? I think that's just a joke. At this moment, an elder's disdainful voice rang out in the palace. Chapter 239. The disdainful old voice sounded in the hall. Yi Bei and the group of elders from the Great Compassion Palace were stunned. The voice sounded familiar. Then, the void in the hall opened and an old man stepped out. His face was full of wrinkles and his white hair danced in the wind. Great Ancestor Tian Bei. Yi Bei and the other elders were stunned when they saw the white-haired old man, and then a wisp of bright light flashed through their eyes. The old man in front of them was the founder of Great Compassion Palace, Great Ancestor Tian Bei. Great Ancestor Tian Bei, what realm have you broken through to? Yi Bei looked at the white-haired old man in surprise. Although he was not strong, he had reached the level of a one-star quasi-emperor. However, at this moment, he could only feel the powerful aura of Great Ancestor Tian Bei. He could not see his strength at all. Humph! Great Ancestor Tian Bei snorted and raised his head proudly. Not high. I'm only a First Tribulation Great Emperor. First Tribulation Great Emperor? Great Ancestor, have you passed the first tribulation of a great emperor? Hearing this, Yi Bei and the other elders of the One-Fist Palace widened their eyes in excitement. Great Ancestor Tian Bei's breakthrough would greatly elevate the status of Great Compassion Palace in Tianling region. Congratulations, Great Ancestor! The group of elders congratulated him. Great ancestor, during this period of time, Yi Bei put away his excitement and looked at great ancestor Tian Bei. Before he could finish, great ancestor Tian Bei interrupted him. He waved his hand and a cold smile appeared on his wrinkled face. You don't have to say much. I've already broken through. I'm just consolidating my aura. I've heard about what happened during this period of time. You want to seek help from the legendary patriarch of the Sky Demon cult and have him help you resolve the matter, don't you? Unfortunately, he doesn't have the strength. Great ancestor Tian Bei looked at Yi Bei indifferently. His words were full of disdain for Ning Tian. The patriarch doesn't have the strength? Yi Bei and the others' faces changed when they heard this. The legendary patriarch of Tianma cult was a nine-tribulation great emperor. How dare great ancestor Tian Bei say this? How dare he? Great ancestor Tian Bei. Yi Bei frowned slightly. Humph, I know what you're thinking. Great ancestor Tian Bei snorted and slowly opened his mouth. The Tianma cult is naturally worthy of our reverence. Her Majesty is a nine-tribulations great emperor, and the patriarch of the Tianma cult is indeed worthy of our admiration for some of his deeds. But, at this point, great ancestor Tian Bei's tone suddenly changed as a bright light flashed in his old eyes. A legendary patriarch can't be a great emperor, let alone a nine-tribulations great emperor. But, hearing his confident words, Yi Bei and the group of elders couldn't help but be stunned. The fact that the patriarch was a nine-tribulations great emperor was basically confirmed. Why did great ancestor Tian Bei feel that the patriarch was not a great emperor? Great ancestor, you should know that our ancestor killed two eight-tribulation great emperors and severely injured a nine-tribulation great emperor. Yi Bei sighed. Hee, did you see it with your own eyes? Great ancestor Tian Bei sneered. Don't you think it's a lie that the other great emperors came up with because they valued the Grand Master's Pill Dao skills? Lie? Yi Bei and the others were stunned. Lie? Where did the lie come from? Could it be to deceive the alliance of righteous sects, so that they wouldn't dare to act recklessly? After all, the relationship between the alliance of righteous sects and the Tianma cult was known to all. Yi Bei and the others frowned slightly as if they were deep in thought. Thinking about it carefully, it did seem to make sense. Moreover, other than those great emperors, it seemed that no one had seen the patriarch's ninth-stage great emperor's strength with their own eyes. If it was because they desired an elixir refined by the patriarch, so they cooperated with the empress to put on a show, it seemed to make sense. One should know that ever since the day the Tianma cult patriarch married the empress, his identity had been completely exposed. He was from the Dongxing nation, had no parents, and was only about 20 years old. They couldn't believe that a cultivator could break through to the nine tribulations great emperor level in 20 years. Such a thing had never happened in the entire Tianxian world. Even the youngest great emperor took several hundred years to do so. I understand now. Yi Bei's eyes lit up. We understand too. The elders behind him also had an epiphany. All of them sighed. The so-called youngest great emperor in history was just a lie. What a pity. If the Tianbao sacred master and the other great emperors were present, they would be speechless upon hearing these elders' words. These people were really imaginative. If they were so imaginative, why didn't they write novels? Therefore, although the legendary patriarch was indeed a rare genius, he was not a great emperor realm expert. Great ancestor Tianbei's lips curled into a confident smile. Looks like you're very confident. At this moment, a hearty voice sounded from outside the hall. This voice. Could it be the patriarch? Hearing this, Yi Bei's eyes flashed with seriousness. Even if it was as great ancestor Tianbei said, and the patriarch was not a great emperor, he was still worthy of their attention. After all, even if he wasn't, his wife was. Let's go out and take a look. Immediately, Yi Bei beckoned a group of elders and hurried out. Elder Tian Bei followed after him unhurriedly. Outside the hall, Yi Bei and the others walked out and looked at the sky. Two figures were descending to the ground. Boom! Dust scattered. A handsome young man walked out slowly with an easygoing smile on his face. Behind him, there was an old man following. It's the supreme elder of the Tianma cult. He has also broken through to the Emperor God realm. Yi Bei was stunned when he saw the elder. Since the elder was the supreme elder, this young man should be the patriarch. I'm the fourth palace master of the Great Compassion Palace, Yi Bei. Greetings, patriarch. Yi Bei bowed slightly, and the elders behind him followed suit. Ning Tian nodded slightly. I'm Tianbei. Greetings, patriarch. Great ancestor Tianbei also greeted Ning Tian politely, but he did not bow like Yi Bei and the others. You just said that I'm not a Nine Tribulations great emperor. Ning Tian looked at great ancestor Tianbei with a smile and said slowly. Hearing this, great ancestor Tianbei fell silent. If some words were said in front of the patriarch, they might offend him. Say whatever you want. I'm not blaming you, Ning Tian said calmly. Since someone did not believe him, he had to find a way to prove his identity as a great emperor. Hearing Ning Tian's words, great ancestor Tianbei heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he pondered for a while and said slowly in an orderly manner. I really don't believe that the patriarch is a great emperor. It can be seen from the fact that the patriarch descended from the sky instead of stepping out of the void when he first appeared. If the patriarch is a great emperor, he should have appeared from the void. Chapter 240. Hearing great ancestor Tianbei's words, Ning Tian did not refute. Instead, he nodded in agreement. After all, he was not a true great emperor, and his grasp of the Tao of Void was not that proficient. Moreover, don't your skills have cooldowns? What you said makes sense. Ning Tian looked at great ancestor Tianbei seriously. Hearing this, great ancestor Tianbei was stunned. Did the ancestral master admit it? But before he could speak, Ning Tian's voice rang in his ears again. What you said makes sense, but I won't listen. The corners of great ancestor Tianbei's mouth twitched, and a few black lines appeared on his forehead. How about this? A glimmer of light flashed in Ning Tian's eyes, and he looked at great ancestor Tianbei with a smile. Let me punch you, and then we'll know whether it's true or not. Punch me? Hearing this, great ancestor Tianbei was stunned for a moment. Without thinking, he said, Then I'll punch you. Before he finished speaking, he saw the corners of Ning Tian's mouth suddenly curl up. Great ancestor Tianbei was shocked. Could it be that the Tianma cult's ancestral master was tricking him? If he was really a Nine Tribulations great emperor, wouldn't he be dead with one punch? Gulp. Great ancestor Tianbei swallowed his saliva and stopped abruptly. Even if there was only a 0.1% chance, he did not dare to gamble. If he gambled wrongly, he would lose his life. Why? Great ancestor Tianbei doesn't dare? Ning Tian said with a smile. It's not that I don't dare, but with your strength I'll be dead with one punch. Great ancestor Tianbei smiled apologetically. Oh, didn't you say that I'm not a great emperor? A glimmer of light flashed in Ning Tian's eyes. He deliberately gave great ancestor Tianbei an illusion, but he did not expect the old man to really believe it. Ahem, I'm just a little suspicious. Great ancestor Tianbei suddenly felt a little embarrassed. His old face darkened, and he quickly coughed to ease the awkwardness. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in his eyes. Why don't you let this old man punch you? If Patriarch is a Nine Tribulations great emperor, even one punch should be fine, right? Oh. Ning Tian's voice immediately turned cold. Do you think you're qualified? Hearing this, great ancestor Tianbei's expression changed slightly. He quickly smiled apologetically and said, No, I don't dare. I just want you to prove it. After this punch, I am willing to use 100,000 mu of medicinal fields to apologize to Patriarch. Oh, 100,000 mu of herb fields? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly as a glint flashed across his eyes. Not only would he be able to continue his identity as the Great Emperor, but he would also be able to obtain 100,000 herb fields. How could he not do such a good thing? Ning Tian nodded and said slowly, "Okay, then we'll do as you say, but only in the face." "You can only hit his face? Why?" Great Ancestor Tian Bei was a little hesitant. "If your handsome face is disfigured, I'm afraid the Empress will chop me with a knife." "It doesn't matter." Ning Tian waved his hand and then spoke nonsense in a serious manner. "The face is the most vulnerable part. The other parts of the Emperor are extremely hard. With one punch you may be crippled. Do you want to be crippled?" "Hiss, so that's how it is." Great Ancestor Tian Bei sucked in a breath of cold air and suddenly came to a realization. He looked at Ning Tian gratefully. "Thank you, Patriarch. You're really a gentleman." On the side, Yi Bei and the others were full of admiration for Ning Tian. Patriarch was really a good person. "Do it." Ning Tian glanced at Great Ancestor Tian Bei indifferently. Great Ancestor Tian Bei nodded heavily. Then, spiritual energy flickered in his hand as he punched. Bang! The next moment, his fist landed on Ning Tian's face. At this moment, Great Ancestor Tian Bei's pupils suddenly shrank, and his expression changed drastically. His face was so hard. F***ck, he exclaimed, and then his body was directly bounced away at this moment, turning into a meteor and disappearing. Wow! Great Ancestor flew so far. Looking at Great Ancestor Tian Bei, who had turned into a meteor and disappeared, Yi Bei and the other elders of Great Ancestor Tian Bei widened their eyes. "Patriarch, is Great Ancestor Tian Bei all right?" Yi Bei looked at Ning Tian, swallowed his saliva, and asked with some difficulty. At this time, he completely believed that the Patriarch in front of him was a genuine Nine Tribulations Great Emperor. Otherwise, how could Great Ancestor Tian Bei be directly bounced away? "He shouldn't die, but I don't know how far he can fly," Ning Tian said indifferently and touched his face again. The defense of his face was really useful. If he said that his face was invincible, then his face was invincible. "By the way, when he comes back, remember to give me the 100,000 mu of medicinal fields." "Yes, okay, now take me to the land of the fallen gods to have a look," Ning Tian said again. "Yes." Hearing Ning Tian finally mention this, Yi Bei quickly nodded, and then the group of people rushed to the land of the fallen gods. Land of the fallen gods. Ning Tian looked at the huge canyon in front of him and couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. Was this canyon in front of him the land of the fallen gods? "Patriarch, it is said that the mountains in the land of the fallen gods were formed by the body of a godly realm expert, and the thousands of ravines were formed by the godly realm expert's blood essence," Yi Bei explained to Ning Tian. "Yes?" Ning Tian nodded, but his gaze was still on the land of the fallen gods. The entire huge canyon was covered by dark clouds, emitting waves of gloomy aura. One could vaguely hear waves of ghostly cries and wolf howls. "Patriarch, may I know how to solve this?" "To be honest, my daughter and some of the sect's elite disciples are still trapped inside." Yi Bei looked at Ning Tian with a worried expression. Ning Tian was silent, and his gaze seemed to be able to see through the depths of the land of the fallen gods. He said in his heart, "System, activate the eye of perception." Activating the eye of perception. "The eye of perception has been activated." As the system's voice fell, the spiritual energy in Ning Tian's body circulated, and a faint golden light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the world in his eyes changed. He saw a demonic fog rising into the sky from the land of the fallen gods. It was extremely dense, and it spread over the entire land of the fallen gods. Seeing this ball of light, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. Could this be the aura of the demon god's remnant? The demonic fog was located at the center of the land of the fallen gods. Patriarch? Seeing Ning Tian in a daze, Yi Bei couldn't help but feel puzzled, so he tried calling out twice. Ning Tian came back to his senses and looked at Yi Bei. His expression changed immediately. Damn! The eye of perception really had the ability to see through things. Yi Bei was wearing red underwear, which was an eyesore. Patriarch, what's wrong? Yi Bei scratched his head and asked in confusion. Nothing. Ning Tian waved his hand and turned off the eye of perception. He then looked into the depths of the land of the fallen gods and said calmly, "Don't worry, I have my ways." Chapter 241. Ancestral Master, do you have a solution? Yi Bei was taken aback after hearing this. Could it be that the Ancestral Master's solution was to enter? But in the land of the fallen gods, the stronger one was, the stronger the pressure would be. Now that the land of the fallen gods was so strange, even if he was worried, he did not dare to enter alone. The Ancestral Master was a 9 tribulations great emperor. If he went in, wouldn't he be crushed to death by the power of the godly state? Not really. Ning Tian smiled mysteriously, then looked at Yi Bei and the Supreme Elder. He said slowly, "Wait for me here. I'll look around and observe the land of the fallen gods." Yes, Ancestral Master, we understand. The Supreme Elder, Yi Bei, and the other elders of the Great Compassion Palace nodded. Then, under everyone's gaze, Ning Tian activated the Way of the Void, stepped into the void, and disappeared. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes flashed with envy. Stepping into the void. This was the power of a martial monarch realm expert. A few hundred meters away from the land of the fallen gods, the void opened and Ning Tian stepped out. He was not in a hurry to enter. The things in the land of the fallen gods were not trivial. He did not want the people of the Great Compassion Palace to know that he was the one who solved it. If the demon god came to the celestial spirit region in the future and everyone knew that he, the ancestral master of the Tianma cult, had solved the strange situation in the land of the fallen gods, it would be easy for the demon god to find him. He did not want to get into unnecessary trouble just because he wanted to show off. Sometimes it was better to keep a low profile. I have to solve it myself and not let them know. Oh right, there's that skill. Ning Tian was lost in thought. Suddenly, a light flashed in his eyes, and he came to a realization. The reward for attacking the Queen Mother of the West and shocking the disciples of the Jade Lake seemed to be the Shadow Clone skill card. System, use the Shadow Clone skill card. Ning Tian said in his mind. Using the Shadow Clone skill card. Use successful. Shadow Clone skill card, effective time. 3 hours. 3 hours? Ning Tian narrowed his eyes. 3 hours meant that he had to solve everything within 3 hours. At this moment, Ning Tian could sense that his shadow on the ground was being stretched infinitely. Then, a figure slowly crawled out from the shadows. With a flash of light, an identical Ning Tian appeared in front of him. Ning Tian looked over and studied it for a long time. Finally, he said, "As expected of me. Even my shadow clone is so handsome." The shadow Ning Tian and Ning Tian were exactly the same, but the only difference was that there was less light in the shadow's eyes, and it looked a little sluggish. "Good brother, I'll leave Yi Bei and the others to you." Ning Tian patted Ning Tian on the shoulder, turned around, stepped into the void, and shot towards the land of the fallen gods. At the side, Shadow Ning Tian also turned around and left. A few minutes later, Yi Bei and the others were looking at the land of the fallen gods worriedly. The strange aura made them very uncomfortable, especially the demonic sound that was lingering in their ears. It was a headache. At this moment, footsteps came from behind them. Yi Bei and the others immediately turned around. "Ancestral Master, you're back." Yi Bei's eyes flashed and he quickly asked, "Ancestral Master, how is it? Did you find a way?" Shadow Ning Tian nodded faintly with an indifferent expression. Yi Bei and the others were stunned. Why did it feel like the ancestral master was being ignored? The solution is to wait until the wind blows and the clouds disperse. Shadow Ning Tian said faintly. Wind blows and the clouds disperse? What do you mean? Yi Bei and the other elders were stunned and looked at Ning Tian in confusion. Wait, we just have to wait now. After Shadow Ning Tian said this, he didn't say anything else. Yi Bei and the other elders were stunned. Since the ancestral master did not move, they did not dare to say anything. Could it be that they had to wait for the strange aura in the land of the fallen gods to dissipate naturally? Would it really dissipate naturally? Yi Bei's head was filled with question marks. He quietly pulled the Grand Elder and whispered, "Has your patriarch always been so mysterious?" "Of course." The Grand Elder raised his head proudly. "Just wait. Do you think the patriarch would lie to you?" Yi Bei scratched his head. No matter how anxious he was, he could only do as the ancestral master said and wait quietly. Therefore, Yi Bei and the group of elders from Great Compassion Palace waited outside the land of fallen gods. The wind blew and the clouds dispersed. Could the strange aura in the land of the fallen gods really be blown away? Land of the fallen gods. A void dissipated and Ning Tian stepped out from the void. Instantly, waves of terrifying pressure came from all directions. Boom! Boom! Ning Tian's body sank and 2 deep footprints were left on the ground. The pressure on his body was so strong. Ning Tian circulated his spiritual energy slightly to resist the pressure. Only then could he take a step forward. However, every step was as heavy as Mount Tai. The pressure of a godly state expert is so strong. Ning Tian's face was solemn. He touched the 2 Nine Tribulations protective arrays on his body and became even more determined. He could not let Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West sense that he was in danger. He was only a Saint Emperor, but he could already feel the terrifying pressure. If an expert like the 9 Tribulations Great Emperor came, how terrifying would the pressure from the godly state be? Phew, Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief. Then, a golden light flashed in his eyes as he activated the perceptive eye. The perceptive eye has been activated. As the system notification sounded, the world in Ning Tian's eyes changed again. A few thousand meters away from him, a pitch-black pillar of light shot up into the sky and dyed the entire sky black. Demonic aura filled the sky. It was not the demonic aura of the demonic path, but the innate demonic aura of the demonic tribe. It is indeed the remnant of the demonic god. Ning Tian's eyes flashed. The aura it emitted was very similar to the aura of the demonic god. It should be the demonic god. A few thousand meters, easy. Ning Tian estimated the distance and was about to activate the path of the void. However, he realized that he could not use the path of the void after entering the land of the fallen gods. This space seems to be sealed. Ning Tian muttered. Since he could not use the path of the void, he could only fly. However, when his body was 3 meters above the ground, a huge pressure pressed down on him and forced him back to the ground. Boom! A cloud of dust rose from the ground. Ning Tian got up from the ground. His face was covered in dust and he cursed, "Damn it, I can't step on the void or fly. Then I will walk over." Boom! In an instant another pressure pressed down on him. Chapter 242. Boom! That terrifying aura landed heavily on Ning Tian's body. Ning Tian sank into the ground again. He had to circulate his spiritual energy again to stand up. Shouldn't the stronger one be, the stronger the aura in this godforsaken place? Why is there an endless amount of aura when I take a step? Ning Tian could not help but complain in his heart. According to his imagination, shouldn't he be walking on flat ground in the land of the fallen gods? Host, the land of the fallen gods might have acknowledged your strength. Therefore, the aura you feel is much stronger than an ordinary holy emperor. The system's voice was heard. Ning Tian was silent. Acknowledged my strength? That's not necessary. I know I'm very strong. Ning Tian gritted his teeth. He was speechless when he felt the boundless aura on his body. Phew, then, he let out a long sigh of relief. A glint of light flashed across his eyes. He didn't believe it. Could it be that this pressure could crush him to death? Boom. Then, the enormous spirit ocean in his body surged. Spiritual energy surged out of his body. Circulate the 6 Tao, Ning Tian shouted in his heart. He circulated the 6 Tao attainments in his body and fought against the aura. After a while, Ning Tian could feel the aura on his body dissipating. He was able to stand firm. Then, he walked toward the center of the land of the fallen gods. In the land of the fallen gods, a place filled with black fog. A group of young men and women in white were looking around nervously. They seemed to be on guard against something. Spiritual energy was circulating around their bodies. They held spiritual weapons and treasures in their hands and relied on each other. Senior Sister Yu, what are those things? A young man looked at the young lady beside him with fear in his eyes. The young lady was like a lotus flower. Her eyes were clear and she looked like a lady from a wealthy family. She was Yi Yu, the daughter of the palace master of the Great Compassion Palace, Yi Bei. I don't know. Yi Yu shook her head. Her beautiful eyes were solemn. Woo woo. At that moment the sound was heard. It sounded like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. It was demonic and terrifying. Boom. At this moment, some black gas appeared beside them. He's here. A wisp of graveness flashed in Yi Yu's eyes as she lightly shouted, and the spirit sword in her hand flickered with a cold light. Use your spiritual energy to block your ears. Don't listen to those strange sounds. Pay attention to the black gas. Yi Yu was very calm at this moment. Even though she had no idea what the black smoke and demonic voices were, she knew that she was the center of attention of all the disciples around her. If even she panicked, then all of them would be finished. Yes, Senior Sister. Understood, Senior Sister Yu. Dozens of Great Compassion Palace's elite disciples around them wore solemn expressions as their hearts raced. They quickly followed Yi Yu's instructions. Boom. Spirit Qi appeared and formed a barrier around his ears. However, their strength was still limited, and they could only isolate a trace of it. Some of the demonic sounds would still rush into their ears. Immediately, just hearing a trace of demonic sound caused their expressions to gradually turn ferocious. His eyes were completely bloodshot. His entire aura instantly became somewhat unstable. However, they couldn't care less at this moment. The balls of black gas transformed into human figures and charged towards them. Hurry! Use the Great Compassion mantra to block the black gas. Yi Yu's face was solemn as she yelled at the disciples. Then, she channeled her spiritual energy towards the waves of demonic aura. Yes, the disciples did not doubt her and channeled their spiritual energy to use the Great Compassion mantra. Boom! Instantly, a golden light flashed on dozens of them. A sorrow word carved with golden light appeared in front of them. Woo-woo-hee-hee. The wave of black gas rushed over, bringing with it countless demonic voices. Boom! In an instant, the sorrow word crumbled in the blink of an eye. Not good. Those things have become stronger again. Yi Yu's pupils constricted and a look of horror flashed across her eyes. Barf! At this moment, some of the weaker disciples were invaded by the demonic voices and spat out black blood. In the blink of an eye, their eyes widened and their faces turned black. They fell to the ground and died. Woo-woo, the demonic voices dissipated at this moment. It was like a tide. We finally made it through. Some of the disciples from the Great Compassion Palace heaved a sigh of relief with lingering fear. The demonic voices were not something they could withstand at all. Yi Yu's expression was terrible. Looking at the 7 or 8 corpses on the ground, she could not help but sigh. A week ago, they entered the land of the fallen gods to train. However, on a certain day, the land of the fallen gods was filled with demonic aura. They were trapped there. What was even more terrifying was that the demonic voices would ring in their ears, and the black gas would attack them from time to time. It was impossible for them to withstand it completely. Every time the demonic voices attacked, they would suffer heavy losses. The number of disciples had increased from over 100 to over a dozen now. "Senior sister, are we going to die here?" A girl around 14 years old looked at Yu. Her eyes were filled with despair. Don't be afraid. I will bring you all out." Yu sighed. Then, she squatted down and rubbed Ro-Er's head. Beside her, some of the disciples sighed. "Senior sister, you had said that to them countless times. In the land of the fallen gods, even if senior sister you had the strength of a saint emperor, she could not fully utilize it. Moreover, because it was the land of the fallen gods, even Palace Master Yi Bei, who had the strength of a god emperor, did not dare to enter. Right now, they were completely in a predicament where they could neither cry for help, nor cry for help. The only thing they could do was to withstand the demonic voices and wait for their death. Everyone sighed. At this moment, heavy footsteps were heard. Boom, boom. It was as if every step was deep into the ground. "Someone is coming. Be careful." Yu became cautious immediately. She stood up from the ground and the spiritual sword in her hand shone with a cold light. "Yes." Hearing that, the disciples from the Great Compassion Palace swallowed their saliva nervously. Judging from the sound of the footsteps and the tremors of the ground, could it be a giant? At this moment, everyone quietly channeled their spiritual energy and looked at the distance. Boom, boom. The sound was getting closer. The disciples from the Great Compassion Palace could feel the tremors of the ground. At this moment, everyone saw a figure suddenly appear in the black fog. It was being pulled to an incomparably huge size. "It's coming!" Everyone's pupils constricted, and they instinctively took a step back. Suddenly, a beautiful voice came from the black fog. "F***CK. I'm already like this. Why is the pressure still so strong?" Chapter 243. Yu and the rest were stunned when they heard the voice. Then, they looked at the figure. Boom. Heavy footsteps could be heard from the black fog. Then, a figure appeared. That was a young man from the human race. "Senior sister, it's a human. Could it be that the palace master sent him to save us?" Anticipation flashed in the eyes of the Great Compassion Palace disciples. Yu remained silent and looked at the young man. His face was completely shrouded in the black fog, and no one could see his face clearly. He gave off a strong sense of mystery. Suddenly, her gaze fell on the young man's feet. Her pupils constricted. Every time he stepped on the ground, he would leave a deep footprint on the ground. There was also a terrifying amount of spiritual energy in the footprints. How much pressure is he enduring? Yiyu's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. Hearing the voices around him, Ning Tian looked alert. A light flashed in his hand and he wiped his face. Suddenly, a cold feeling appeared on his face. He had become Ning Shui again. "May I know who you are?" Yiyu's red lips parted slightly as she looked at Ning Tian. "Who are you?" Ning Tian did not answer and asked as he walked over. Seeing Ning Tian approaching, Yiyu and the rest instinctively kept their guard up. "We're disciples of Great Compassion Palace. I'm Yi Bei's daughter, Yiyu. Who are you in the Northern States Diabolism?" At this moment, Yiyu had completely regarded Ning Tian as a member of the Northern States Diabolism. That was because the Diabolism forces in the Northern State were all in the vicinity of the fallen Godland. Great Compassion Palace was also well known in the Northern State. Even if this person was hostile, he would not dare to attack them. "Why should I tell you?" Ning Tian said calmly and smiled faintly. A light flashed in his eyes. It turned out that these people were the disciples who were trapped in the fallen Godland that Yi Bei had mentioned. However, he did not want to save them at this moment. You. Hearing that, Yi Yu was stunned and gritted her teeth. Shameless. We've already revealed our identities, but you didn't tell us. Some of the Great Compassion Palace disciples were furious. Ning Tian smiled faintly. At this moment, he was only about 10 meters away from Yi Yu and the others, but he also stopped in his tracks. I only asked who you were. I didn't say that I would tell you who I was. It's just that you were stupid enough to tell me. Ning Tian shrugged and said. Yi Yu, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace were speechless. Shameless. He had never seen such a shameless person. Can't you be a little less scheming? More sincerity? In that case, fellow Taoist. Yi Yu looked up at Ning Tian, but before she could finish speaking, her jaw dropped. Because she saw a face that she didn't know how to describe. This person is so ugly. Yeah, he's so ugly. He's definitely not strong. Forget it, forget it. Some of the disciples also looked over. At first, he thought that he might be the young master of a demonic sect. But now, he realized that he was too ugly. Instantly, the anticipation in their hearts vanished into thin air. Fellow Taoist, why did you come to the land of the fallen gods? The land of the fallen gods is very dangerous now. Why don't you join forces with us? Yi Yu suppressed the disgust in her heart and looked at Ning Tian. Senior Sister Yu, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace couldn't help but frown when they heard that. They couldn't even protect themselves now. If they had to bring a burden with them, wouldn't that be, say no more. Yi Yu waved her hand and kept her gaze on Ning Tian. Although the person in front of them looked ugly, one couldn't judge a book by its cover. Moreover, judging from Ning Tian's appearance just now, they could tell that his strength was far above theirs. Join forces? Ning Tian raised his brow and said indifferently, not interested. Yi Yu was stunned and somewhat disappointed. However, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace were overjoyed. Senior Sister Yu had already given him a clear path, but he still refused. He really didn't know what was good for him. Walking alone in the land of the fallen gods was equivalent to courting death. Fellow Taoist, Yi Yu's red lips parted slightly and was about to persuade him to stay again. However, at this moment, the surrounding black fog surged and a wave of demonic sound suddenly came. Woo woo. Kakik, oh no, Senior Sister Yu, those things are coming again. The disciples of Great Compassion Palace changed their expressions abruptly and fear flashed across their eyes. They're coming again. Yi Yu frowned slightly and her beautiful eyes were filled with caution. She said to the disciples, Quick, continue to use the Great Compassion Sutra. Go into the crowd. Yes. Then, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace used the Great Compassion Sutra in a panic. The wave of spiritual energy turned into a big golden compassion character and formed a boundary that enveloped all the disciples of Great Compassion Palace. Demonic sound? Ning Tian murmured and looked at the black fog. At this moment, he used the perceptive eye to see the black fog clearly. In the black fog, there seemed to be some black shadows that were constantly rushing over. Their mouths were constantly letting out ghostly wails and howls. The demonic sound was coming from their mouths. What's this? Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt. The system said, Host, this should be a type of demonic creature produced after the demonic sound transformed. Demonic creature? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly. At this moment, Yi Yu saw that Ning Tian was still in a daze and could not help but frown. She quickly said, Fellow Taoist, these demonic sounds are extremely terrifying. You'd better choose to fight with us. There's no need for that. Ning Tian shook his head and said nonchalantly. This guy really doesn't know what's good for him. The disciples of Great Compassion Palace secretly shook their heads. Their senior sister Yu was kind enough to help him, but this guy did not appreciate it. Upon hearing Ning Tian's words, Yi Yu was stunned for a moment. She frowned and was somewhat displeased. She did not say anything else. Instead, she turned around and activated the Great Compassion Mantra, preparing to fight the demonic sounds with the disciples of Great Compassion Palace. She had already given Ning Tian a chance. If he did not cherish it, then he could not blame her. Demonic sounds? It seems that the closer we are to the demon god's lost item, the more severe the effects will be, Ning Tian mumbled. Then, a cold light flashed across the storage ring on his finger. A celestial slashing guzheng appeared in his hand. He sat cross-legged and placed the celestial slashing guzheng in his hand. The disciples of the Great Compassion Palace were stunned when they saw this. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to fight the demonic sounds with the Tao of music? However, sister, you had already tried using the Tao of music earlier. In the end, it was like throwing an egg against a rock. It could not even withstand a single blow. Sigh, he's taking it too hard. The disciples of Great Compassion Palace sighed, as if they could already see Ning Tian's miserable state. This guy, Yu frowned. She was also puzzled. Was he not afraid of death? Or could he really deal with the demonic sounds? However, she knew very well how powerful the demonic sounds were. Suddenly, Yu's pupils constricted abruptly as she gasped. Hiss! This is… Chapter 244. Ning Tian sat cross-legged on the ground with a black fog surging towards him. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. His hand landed gently on the zither strings. The moment he touched the strings, his entire aura changed. This is… Yu was stunned on the spot. Her beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. At that moment, she felt that the person in front of her had changed into an entertainment Tao Grandmaster. What powerful attainments in the entertainment Tao! Yu gasped and a strange glint flashed across her beautiful eyes. Woo woo! At that moment, the black fog charged towards them. As though it had turned into a pitch-black evil spirit, it extended its terrifying claws and charged towards Ning Tian. Everyone was trembling with fear. Their eyes were filled with fear. The black fog was much stronger than before. The demonic sound was ear-piercing. Many Great Compassion Palace disciples turned pale and spat out mouthfuls of blood. That was only the demonic sound. They were already in such a state before the terrifying black fog even reached them. If the black fog was combined with the demonic sound, they would be doomed. Oh no, we're doomed. Looks like we're still going to die here. Some of the disciples were filled with despair and pain. Some of them even began to say their last word. Senior brother, I'm sorry. I'm the one who wore your underwear. I'm the one who caused your hemorrhoids. What? Senior brother, sister-in-law is amazing. You're my star. Quiet down, all of you. At that moment, Yu shouted coldly. She frowned and looked at the Great Compassion Palace disciples. Who said we're going to die here? There's still hope. There's still hope? The disciples were stunned and their eyes were filled with confusion. Yu said indifferently and her gaze fell on Ning Tian. The disciples looked over and frowned. No way, senior sister. Do you really think that guy can break the black fog? A disciple pursed his lips. Shut up. Yu reprimanded. At that moment, everyone suddenly heard a piercing demonic sound. Oh no! The expressions of the Great Compassion Palace's disciples changed drastically. The black fog transformed into a pair of sharp claws that were nearly 100 meters long and slashed at them. It's over, it's over. The group of disciples panicked. Yu frowned slightly, her gaze never leaving Ning Tian. At this time, she was also powerless. She could only see if her woman's sixth sense was accurate or not. The black fog assaulted her, and the demonic sound lingered in her ears. Ning Tian finally moved. He plucked the strings of the zither with one finger, then loosened it casually. A soft and ordinary entertainment Tao attack slowly flew towards the colossal being. Everyone was stunned when they saw the entertainment Tao attack, and a wisp of astonishment flashed through their eyes. Such a weak entertainment Dao attack was even weaker than the one senior sister you had just used. Would this really work? Just as they were feeling puzzled, they saw an even more ridiculous scene. After Ning Tian triggered the Dao of entertainment attack, he slowly stood up and put away the immortal end zither. Then, he turned around and walked towards them. Huh! Did he not intend to attack? His back was facing the black fog? Was he that arrogant? The group of disciples couldn't help but have a confused look on their faces. They frowned slightly as they looked at Ning Tian. We suspect that you're acting tough, and we have proof. What's he doing? Yi Yu was stunned. How could such a small attack be effective? Could it be that her woman's sixth sense was wrong? At this moment, the small entertainment Dao attack rushed towards the black fog claws. The group of Great Compassion Palace's disciples could not help but sigh. How could the light of a firefly compete with the light of the moon? Boom! The entertainment Dao attack landed on a ball of black mist. Then, something unexpected happened. They saw Ning Tian's attack land on the black fog and spread out in an instant. Boom! In less than a second, heavenly music exploded. Clang! The heavenly music spread the black fog, and a series of explosions occurred within the black fog. What? F***ck. His attack actually blew up the black fog. A real man never looks back at an explosion. Cool. Based on the current situation, we've been fooled. The group of disciples widened their eyes in excitement. Their admiring gazes landed on Ning Tian. Shocking. Although this guy was a little ugly, he hid his strength well. Woo-woo. Kaki. A horrifying scream seemed to be heard from the black fog. Then, the black fog dissipated. The surroundings finally became much clearer. I can't believe it worked. Yi Yu's red lips parted slightly, and her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. What a powerful entertainment Dao. Who is he? You've shocked Yi Yu. You've shocked a group of Great Compassion Palace's disciples. Rewarded with a coercion counteracting card. Coercion counteracting card. Use the coercion counteracting card to ignore coercion for 1 hour. Hearing the system's voice, Ning Tian's eyes flashed. This was a good thing. In the land of the fallen gods, without coercion, he would be walking on flat ground. Who could stop him? Hee, I'll keep the good stuff first. Ning Tian smiled in his heart. He was not in a hurry to use it. Such a good thing was naturally to be used at the crucial moment. This was a trump card. As the black fog dissipated, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with golden light. He used the perceptive eye to look not far away. He was only a few hundred meters away from the black beam. Soon. Ning Tian murmured and was about to move. At this moment, Yi Yu's voice was heard. Senior, please wait. At this moment, she had already regarded Ning Tian as a heavenly venerable or even a celestial Dharch expert. Ning Tian looked at her indifferently. Senior, please bring us along. Yi Yu pleaded. The disciples behind her were also looking at him with bright eyes. Ning Tian was so powerful. They would definitely be able to get out alive if they followed him. Why should I bring you along? The corners of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly, and he looked at them with a playful expression. If Senior brings us along, I'll definitely thank you when we get out, Yi Yu said with a serious face. Thank you? Ning Tian shook his head. I'm not interested in bringing you burdens. Hearing this, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace turned red. They thought that Ning Tian was a burden, but they did not know that they were the burdens. Senior, Yi Yu was unwilling to give up. She looked at Ning Tian unwillingly. Shut up. Ning Tian scolded in a cold voice. I've said that I don't want to bring you along. If you continue to talk nonsense, do you believe that I'll cripple you? Hearing this, Yi Yu and the others' faces changed. At this moment, Ning Tian left them with a sentence and walked toward the center of the land of the fallen god. If you want to live, stay where you are. Chapter 245. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Tian disappeared from Yi Yu and the rest's sight. His target was the center of the fallen godland. Senior sister, that man is so fierce. Roer hid in Yi Yu's arms. She could not help but tremble when she saw Ning Tian's fierce look and his ugly face. Roer, don't be afraid. I'm here. Yi Yu rubbed Roer's head and comforted her softly. However, she was looking at the center of the fallen god land with doubts in her heart. That senior's words just now. What did he mean? Stay where you are if you want to live? Senior sister Yu, what should we do now? At this moment, the great Compassion Palace disciple beside her could not help but ask. Do we really have to listen to that guy? He's indeed powerful, but isn't his attitude too arrogant? Doesn't he know that you're the young palace master of Great Compassion Palace? The group of Great Compassion Palace disciples chimed in one after another. Their eyes were filled with dissatisfaction. Yi Yu frowned slightly when she heard the surrounding disciples. She did not really care about Ning Tian's attitude toward her. After all, he was more powerful than her. What she cared about was whether she should listen to Ning Tian or not. The surrounding black fog had just been dispersed by Ning Tian. Without the terrifying demonic sound and strange black fog, it was the best time to escape. After all, no one knew whether or not those terrifying black fog demonic voices would return. However, Senior Sister Yu, if we don't hurry up, we'll be in trouble if the black fog returns. Seeing Yi Yu's hesitation, the surrounding Great Compassion Palace disciples became anxious. They were afraid, but without Yi Yu's consent, they did not dare to act rashly. Phew, Yi Yu took a deep breath. Her chest heaved up and down as a glint flashed across her beautiful eyes. I've decided. We'll stay where we are. What? The group of Great Compassion Palace disciples' faces changed slightly. Their eyes were filled with confusion. Senior Sister Yu, the disciple of the Great Compassion Palace, opened his mouth, wanting to say something. There's no need to speak any further. Presently, the land of the fallen gods isn't the place we were familiar with since a long time ago. Instead of running about like a headless fly, it's better to listen to that senior. Yi Yu shook her head, her tone extremely resolute. She didn't know why she believed Ning Tian's words so deeply. Perhaps it was a woman's sixth sense? After all, her intuition wasn't wrong. All right, that's all for now. Rest here and don't move around without my orders. Yi Yu glared at the group of disciples and put on the dignity of the eldest senior sister. Yes, understood, Senior Sister Yu. The group of disciples was stunned and could only nod their heads helplessly. As Yi Yu looked in the direction Ning Tian had left, she had a bad feeling in her heart. It seemed that something big was about to happen. Land of the fallen gods. The closer they got to the black beam of light in the middle, the more demonic sounds in the black fog became, and the more intense they became. The worst thing was that the suppression in the center of the land of the fallen gods was even more powerful. With every step Ning Tian took, she left a footprint that was 3 to 4 times deeper than the one she had left before. The consumption of spiritual qi for this was also extremely large. Fortunately, I have a few spirit seas. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to withstand it. Ning Tian shook his head and continued to take one step at a time. However, the consumption this time is quite large. I'll have to find my wife to replenish it when I get back. Boom! Just as he was calculating in his heart, the black fog in the surroundings suddenly attacked. The ear-piercing and terrifying demonic sounds were heard at this moment. It's coming again. Ning Tian looked at it, and the storage ring in his hand shone. Then, he used his spirit qi to support the strings of the celestial guzheng in front of him, allowing it to float in the air. Then, his fingers plucked the strings, and the heavenly music of the guzheng sounded. Clang! Clang clang! As the black fog attacked, the heavenly music of the guzheng sounded, continuously destroying the black fog. However, as he was close to the black light beam, the black fog was destroyed, and soon new black fog attacked. It doesn't seem like it can go on like this. I have to think of a way to solve this once and for all. Facing the black fog that kept attacking, Ning Tian frowned slightly and muttered. Then, he circulated his spirit qi, and his fingers plucked the strings rapidly, leaving behind afterimages. The speed was shockingly fast. Clang! 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 The heavenly music continued to sound. On the celestial/Guzheng, there was a burst of bright light. It seemed to illuminate the past and present, and also completely lit up the black fog. Absolute kill sound formation, suppress. Ning Tian's eyes shone as he shouted calmly. The moment his voice fell, the celestial/Guzheng shook violently. Then, a huge music Dao formation spread out with him as the center. Any black fog that came within 100 meters of Ning Tian was suppressed by the absolute kill sound formation. With the defense of the absolute kill sound formation, the black fog no longer posed any threat to Ning Tian. He simply put away the celestial/Guzheng and walked with heavy steps toward the light beam that shot into the sky. The closer he got, the stronger the pressure of the fallen gods became. 200 meters, 150 meters, 100 meters, finally 10 meters. When Ning Tian was only 10 meters away from the black light beam that shot into the sky, his whole body was already drenched in sweat. This was indeed the center of the fallen gods' land, the place where the pressure was the strongest. He could barely support his body to walk, which was already the limit of his limit. System, activate the eye of perception. I want to see what this is. A what? Ning Tian thought to herself. Activating the eye of perception. Activation successful. As the system's voice fell, the spirit qi in his body was mobilized, and the eye of perception was activated. A bright golden light flashed in the depths of Ning Tian's eyes as he looked toward the black light beam that was close at hand. Under the eye of perception, Ning Tian quickly saw through the layers of darkness, and his gaze went straight to the deepest part of the black fog. That is, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment, and a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. In the black light beam, a palm-sized pagoda floated in the darkness. Countless terrifying and evil black fog was constantly emitted from this small pagoda. What is that? A hint of doubt flashed in Ning Tian's eyes. He quietly mobilized his spirit qi and slowly walked toward the black light beam. Every step was an insurmountable gap. Boom! With each step, the ground shook. 8 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters, 1 meter. Finally, Ning Tian's feet landed in front of the black light beam. He took a deep breath, and then the spirit qi in his body surged, setting off stormy waves, and his clothes fluttered in the wind. He stretched out his hand and grabbed toward the small pagoda in the darkness. Boom! At this moment, the black light beam suddenly became unstable, and vaguely, it was about to suck Ning Tian into it. Chapter 246. Ning Tian's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to think of a way to break the suction force, the power of his physique suddenly erupted from his body. Boom! In an instant, the powerful suction force from the dark beam of light disappeared. This is the power of the heavenly god constitution? Ning Tian was confused, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Regardless of whether it was the heavenly god constitution or not, the most important thing now was to get that thing. Then, without hesitation, he grabbed the small pagoda in the dark beam. But at this moment, something unexpected happened again. Boom! There was a sound of something breaking the air behind him, and a horrible demonic aura came toward him. Again? Ning Tian frowned and reached into the dark beam. After grabbing the small pagoda, the dragon under his feet flickered and he retreated more than 10 meters in an instant. Boom! At this moment, the horrible demonic aura landed on the ground and tore a hideous crack in the ground. If it had landed on Ning Tian, he would have ended up like this. Phew! That was close. Ning Tian heaved a sigh of relief. But when he felt the small pagoda in his hand, he smiled slightly. Fortunately, he got the thing first. Boom! 2 black figures landed where Ning Tian was. They grabbed at the dark beam, but there was nothing there. The thing was gone. Who are you? Seeing the 2 black figures, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a touch of seriousness. His intuition told him that these 2 people were not simple. Their strength was far above his. The 2 black figures turned around abruptly, and Ning Tian saw their faces clearly. 2 people, or rather 2 people. Their bodies were pitch black. They looked like they were wearing black clothes, but upon closer inspection, they were actually black skin. Their eyes were red, and there were 2 horns on their heads, which were like the horns of a bull, shining with a sharp cold light. And between their eyebrows there was a flame pattern, which was emitting a monstrous demonic aura. This is demonic tribe? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment, and then he thought of the demon god that day. That guy really didn't give up. Although he couldn't enter, he could send a demon who was strong enough to be accepted by the celestial spirit region. The Drought Demon Clan? Ning Tian frowned and looked at the 2 demons. A mere human ant from the heavenly spirit realm knows the origin of my clan? The 2 from the Drought Demon Clan frowned slightly. Their eyes flashed red as they looked at the small tower in Ning Tian's hand. Human ant, hand over the Buddha Demon Pagoda. It doesn't belong to you. Pagoda Demon Tower? So this thing is called the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Thanks for telling me. Ning Tian grinned and threw the Buddha's Devil Pagoda into his storage ring in front of the 2 devils. No matter what it was already in his hands, and he still wanted to hand it over? I think you've lost your mind. Are you daydreaming? Seeing this scene, the 2 devils were stunned. Strange. They were speaking the ancient human language, right? But why couldn't this human ant understand? These 2 were called Chi Tian and Chi Hun, and they were the commanders of the Drought Demon Clan. They were equivalent to heavenly venerables of the human race. Their goal was to find the relic of the Drought Demon Clan, the Pagoda Demon Tower. When they passed by the land of the fallen gods and felt the familiar demonic chi, they landed without hesitation. Unfortunately, they were still a step too late. The Buddha's Devil Pagoda had already been obtained by this human ant before him. You're just a mere human ant. How dare you touch the things of my race? You really don't know what's good for you. Chi Tian sneered, his eyes full of disdain. Hearing these 2 fellows keep talking about the human ant, Ning Tian was immediately unhappy. He looked at the 2 devils indifferently and spat out 2 words in a voice as cold as ice. Courting death? Chi Tian and Chi Hun were slightly stunned. This human ant actually dared to say such words to them? Ha ha! Ridiculous! We are the commanders of the Devil Clan, and we are equivalent to human heavenly venerables. How can you provoke us? The 2 devils sneered. They were incomparably arrogant and did not think that Ning Tian's strength was above theirs. Peak heavenly venerables? You are indeed much, much stronger than me. Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile as she looked at the 2 demons meaningfully. What do you mean? Chi Tian and Chi Hun's eyes flashed with a touch of seriousness. Why was he smiling? Nothing. Ning Tian smiled indifferently. In his heart, he wished that these 2 devils were stronger. The stronger they were, the heavier the pressure they would be under. The 2 devils were stunned. Suddenly, an irresistible pressure came from the sky. What a strong pressure! Chi Tian's face suddenly changed, and he wanted to use the monstrous demonic chi to resist the pressure. However, just as the demonic chi was activated, the pressure was not affected at all. Instead, it became even stronger. Boom! Sorry, I forgot to tell you. Ning Tian laughed heartily. This is the land of the fallen gods, and it is full of the pressure of the godly realm experts. The stronger you are, the more terrifying the pressure is. You are stronger than me, but here. I can beat you up. The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled up into a smile as the spirit qi in her body began to circulate. Sorry. In the land of the fallen gods, I am weaker than you. I can really do whatever I want. The two commanders of the demon clan were speechless. It was the first time they had seen someone talk about being weak in such a refreshing way. Humph! Qi Hun sneered and his scarlet eyes flickered. So what if there is pressure? Why would the noble demon clan be afraid of a human like you? Before he could finish his words, a golden light flashed in front of him. Before he could react, the punch landed on his face, and his entire body flew out in an instant. His whole body was flickering with wind and lightning. I really don't like the word ant. Do you not understand? Ning Tian's indifferent voice sounded. His eyes were cold, and wind and lightning flickered in his hand, full of killing intent. Wah! Qi Hun climbed up from the ground and spat out a mouthful of black blood. His face was extremely ugly. Under this punch, he felt what was called power. Impossible! How can a mere human's power be so strong? His heart was full of shock. You have shocked Qi Hun of the demon clan. Your power has temporarily increased by 20 times. At this time, when Qi Hun was shocked, it was time for Ning Tian to perform. When the system's voice fell, he felt an explosive surge of power. Then, I will use the power you got from your shock to hammer you to death. The corner of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. At this moment, the two demon clan experts who were equivalent to the peak of the heavenly venerable realm were like two chickens in front of Ning Tian, shivering. Chapter 247. Boom! In the blink of an eye, a huge amount of spiritual energy gushed out of Ning Tian's body. Qi Tian and Qi Hun were so shocked that they shivered. You're not affected by the pressure of this broken place? Qi Tian's eyes flashed with doubt as he looked at Ning Tian's divine power. He was starting to doubt his demon life. They were affected by the pressure of this divine realm expert, but why was this human ant not affected? Who said that I'm not affected by this place? The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled up as he looked at the two demons mockingly. His foot landed on the ground, leaving a deep footprint on it. His voice resounded faintly. It's just that I'm used to the pressure here. Used to it? How can you get used to it? The corners of the two demons' mouths twitched as they looked at each other. Killing intent flashed in their eyes. They couldn't drag this out any longer. They had to kill this human ant in front of them. They had to get the Buddha demon tower. Without any hesitation, Qi Tian released a huge amount of demonic energy to resist the pressure. At the same time, a long spear made of demonic energy appeared in his hand. Demonic dragon stab! He shouted in a low voice as a dragon appeared in his hand. The long spear flickered, and a monstrous demonic energy rushed toward Ning Tian with the might of a giant dragon. Ning Tian's eyes lit up as he saw that Qi Tian was able to resist the pressure and display such a huge amount of demonic energy. The corners of his mouth curled up. Interesting. This is more fun. Then, a ball of flames appeared in his hand, and the red cloud sword appeared in his hand. Activate the sword principle, Ning Tian shouted in his heart. Then, he activated the sword principle. In addition to spiritual energy, a layer of sword intent appeared in his body. The demonic energy was monstrous, and the spear was like a dragon. Qi Tian unceasingly revolved the devil energy in his body as much as possible, and contended against Ning Tian. Bang! Boom! Saber light and sword shadow. Qi Tian held the long spear, and he could only move slowly due to the pressure. However, although Ning Tian's feet seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, his speed was still astonishingly fast. As the battle progressed, his forehead was already full of cold sweat. How could this human brat be so powerful? Battle distraction, Is this the battle consciousness of the demon race? At this moment, a mocking voice sounded in his ears. Unknowingly, Ning Tian had already appeared beside him. Really? However, the corners of Qi Tian's mouth curled into a sneer. It seemed as if he didn't care about it. If I wasn't distracted, how could I let a human ant like you approach me? Qi Tian sneered. Just now, Ning Tian had taken advantage of his speed and dodged every time he attacked. He could only defend passively. And now, Ning Tian had taken the initiative to approach him, which was exactly what he wanted. Ant, let me tell you something. Never engage in close combat with the Devil Clan, because you don't know how terrifying the Devil Qi is. A sinister smile appeared on Qi Tian's face. Then, he shouted, Qi Hun, use the demonic curse. Not far away, Crimson Soul, who'd been waiting for a long time, suddenly nodded, and his hands transformed into dark claws that suddenly pressed down towards Ning Tian. The monstrous Devil Qi turned into a cage that covered the sky. Then, it slammed down on Ning Tian. Rumble! In an instant, Ning Tian was trapped in the cage made of Devil Qi. Hee hee, you're just an ant. Qi Tian looked ferociously at Ning Tian, who was trapped in the cage made of Devil Qi. His eyes flickered with red light, and the Devil Qi in his hands soared to the sky. Then, he pressed down on the cage. Rumble! The Devil Qi attacked, and a powerful rumble erupted. Then, the cage made of Devil Qi was swallowed up, and Ning Tian was also corroded by the Devil Qi. Hee hee. Let's see if an ant like you can survive under the corrosive Devil Qi. Qi Tian's eyes revealed a sinister look, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cruel smile. Too miserable. Under the corrosive Devil Qi, there's no corpse left. Crimson Soul shook his head and smiled sarcastically. When the Devil Qi dissipated, the two of them immediately looked in that direction. The ant's corpse was indeed gone. However, what about the Buddha Demon Pagoda? The two devils' faces changed slightly. Did the corrosive Devil Qi corrode the Buddha Demon Tower? Yeah. Too miserable. At this moment, a joking voice rang out. Qi Tian and Crimson Soul's faces changed slightly. They turned around and looked in the direction of the voice. They saw Ning Tian, who had been corroded by the Devil Qi, sitting on a branch of a big tree. He looked calm and at ease, and he was biting an apple in his hand. Why aren't you dead? Qi Tian and Crimson Soul's faces changed. Why wasn't he dead? They had just seen with their own eyes that this human ant was trapped to death by the Devil Qi and attacked by the corrosive Devil Qi. So, why was he still alive? Do you really think that I'm that stupid? Ning Tian ate the apple in his hand in a few bites. Then, he clapped his hands and smiled mockingly. Just now, it was just my afterimage. Ning Tian naturally knew how terrifying the Devil Qi was. So, the moment he got close to Qi Tian, he used the swimming dragon step with all his strength and left an afterimage beside him. Who would have thought that it was just as he had expected? The two devils really did have a killer move. If he was contaminated by the corrosive Devil Qi, even Ning Tian wouldn't feel good. Afterimage. Qi Tian and Crimson Soul reacted. Their faces were as black as ink, and they looked extremely ugly. They had actually been toyed with by a human ant. However, what they didn't know was that the human ant in their eyes had not only fooled them, but he had also scared away the demon god of their drought demon clan. I just predicted your prediction. Ning Tian looked at them indifferently. At this moment, Qi Tian and Crimson Soul were speechless. They only felt extremely ashamed. Human ant, you have really angered us. Qi Tian took a deep breath and looked at Ning Tian coldly. Then, Ning Tian spread his hands and took out an apple from his storage ring. Come, eat an apple to calm down. It's not good if you explode in anger. Boom! A monstrous devil energy surged out of Qi Tian's body with a loud rumble. His face was full of ferocity, and his veins were bulging. I'll eat your horse raw. Boom! Then, Chi Tian turned into a cloud of black gas and exploded. Look. Ning Tian's voice drifted over again. Look, you're really angry. Boom. The cloud of devil chi turned into a devil chi giant that was 100 meters tall. That was the real body of the demon clan. Once he used the real body of the demon clan, his strength would reach the peak. Hearing Ning Tian's words, Chi Tian was so anxious that his eyes turned red. You're the one who exploded. And your whole family exploded. Kid, I've shown you enough respect by using the real body of the demon clan. Beside him, Crimson Soul was also covered in devil chi. In an instant, his figure reached a few 100 meters tall. Real body of the demon Tao? Ning Tian was stunned. This thing was similar to the great Tao celestial body. However, the only difference was that after using the real body of the demon Tao, the strength of the demon clan would reach the peak. If that's the case, I can't let my guard down. Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a touch of seriousness. If that's the case, then, system, use the pressure offset card. Chapter 248. Using pressure offset card. Use successful. When Ning Tian's voice and the system's voice rang out, a terrifying aura burst out from his body. Without the pressure from the land of the fallen gods, Ning Tian Yuan was like an awakened giant dragon. His aura was vigorous. Boom. That terrifying spiritual energy was constantly being released from his body. Such a powerful aura. Feeling the powerful aura released by Ning Tian, the two demons were stunned. Then, their pupils shrank and their eyes were filled with shock. Most importantly, when Ning Tian's aura burst out and revealed his strength, the two demons were dumbfounded. 5 stars Holy Emperor Realm. The human in front of them was only a 5 stars Holy Emperor Realm. What the F***ck? Chi Tian and Chi Hun started to doubt the existence of demons. Even though there was the pressure of the land of the fallen gods, the gap between them was still too big. They suspected that they were the 5 stars Holy Emperor Realm and Ning Tian was only at the peak of the Heavenly Master Realm. Boom. At this moment again, a terrifying spiritual energy sea appeared behind Ning Tian's back. The surrounding was filled with his spiritual energy. Hiss. Such a huge amount of spiritual energy. Is this kid still human? F***ck. This F***ker. Feeling the huge spiritual energy sea, Chi Tian and Chi Hun felt a chill in their hearts. They knew that Ning Tian's spiritual energy sea had covered the surrounding area. Fighting in the area covered by his spiritual energy sea would increase his combat strength exponentially. Demon tribe? I think it's just SOSO. The corners of Ning Tian's mouth curled into a smile as he slowly walked towards Chi Tian and Chi Hun. Without the pressure of the divine realm, it felt good to be able to use his strength freely. Gulp. Chi Tian and Chi Hun swallowed their saliva and nodded. Their eyes flashed fiercely. The Buddha Demon Tower was still in his hands. This kid had to die. I don't believe that we can't do anything to you, Chi Tian bellowed. His 100-meter-tall body suddenly shook. Everyone within a 100-mile radius could feel his trembling. Chi Hun followed closely behind. Demonic chi surged on his enormous devil body, an extremely frightening sight. I'm sorry. I really can't do anything to you. Ning Tian smiled confidently. At the same time, the 6 paths appeared behind him. Boom! In the fallen godland. The entire ground was trembling non-stop. Yi Yu and the others followed Ning Tian's instructions and carefully hid where they were. Suddenly, the terrifying aura in the land of the fallen gods disappeared. It was as if only the pressure was left. Senior Sister Yu, the aura is gone. After being stunned for a moment, the surrounding disciples let out a cry of surprise. Yi Yu sensed for a moment, and sure enough, everything returned to its original state. A doubtful voice came out from her red lips. What is going on? Could it be related to that senior? Boom. At this moment, two terrifying demonic auras rushed toward them from a few hundred meters away. Then, two demonic bodies that were 100 meters tall appeared in their line of sight. F***CK. What the hell are those two? They're so tall and huge. The disciples from Great Compassion Palace were horrified. Their eyes were filled with fear. The demonic aura and the demonic bodies that were 100 meters tall gave off an oppressive aura. Yiyu was silent. Her face was filled with shock. This creature seemed to be mentioned in the ancient book. However, she could not recall who it was at that moment. Look! There's another person. At this moment, the disciple from Great Compassion Palace spoke again. Yiyu lifted her head and her eyes moved. She saw a young man covered in spiritual energy leaping into the air and continuously attacking the two huge demonic bodies. It's that senior. He can fly in the fallen godland. Yiyu was completely stunned. Under the pressure of the fallen godland, even a great emperor could not use the void step technique. Suddenly, her beautiful eyes flashed with a thick sense of astonishment. This was because she saw that when the two huge demonic bodies attacked the young man at the same time, his body hid in the void to avoid them. He can use the path of the void in the fallen godland. Even a great emperor can't do that with the pressure of a godly realm expert, right? Who is he? Yiyu's beautiful eyes were filled with excitement. Her heart was racing. She wanted to know who the young man was. However, she could only think about it. If they were to get close to the battle between such experts, they would lose their lives. Senior Sister Yu, should we go over and take a look? The disciples from Great Compassion Palace were curious. No. Yiyu shook her head. We can't get close to such existences. Let's just watch. Yes. Qi Tian and Qi Hun were panicking. This was because the human in front of them was a freak. He was a holy emperor, but he had just used the path of the void that only a great emperor could do. This did not make sense. You have shocked Qi Tian and Qi Hun. Reward: Demon Extermination Kill Card, Demon Extermination Wind. While the two demons were still in shock, the system's voice sounded. Demon Extermination Wind. The corner of Ning Tian's mouth lifted slightly, and there was a flash of light in his eyes. Using the shock of the two demons to kill the two of them, it seemed a little cool. Kid, what realm are you at? Qi Hun looked at Ning Tian solemnly. A deafening voice came from the huge demonic body. Hearing that, Ning Tian smiled. Obviously, he did not intend to answer. Activate Demon Extermination Kill Card. He muttered in his heart. Activating Demon Extermination Kill Card. Demon Extermination Wind, activate. The system's voice sounded. Ning Tian's spirit energy turned into a wind and countless spirit energy soared into the sky. Boom. This or Qi Tian and Qi Hun felt that something was wrong. After looking at each other, they activated their demonic energy. Bloodthirsty Demonic Shield. The monstrous demonic energy covered the demonic body and turned into a blood-red light shield. However, at this moment, the demon extermination wind attacked, and in the blink of an eye, it enveloped the two demons. Exterminate! As Ning Tian's voice sounded. The 200-meter-tall demonic bodies were directly turned into demonic qi in a gust of wind and dissipated without end. Ah! A scream was also heard at this moment. However, in the blink of an eye, the 100-meter-tall demonic body had already disappeared, turning into wisps of demonic energy and dissipating. However, at this moment, there was a wisp of demonic energy that ignored the existence of the pressure and rushed toward one direction. Damn it, why does this guy have the demon extermination skill? The Buddha Demon Pagoda is still in his hands. This matter must be reported to Lord Demon God. This wisp of demonic energy was the last demonic soul of Qi Hun. Chapter 249. Just as he rushed out 100 meters and thought that Ning Tian didn't notice, the space in front of him suddenly distorted. Following that, Ning Tian took a step out of the void. Where do you want to go? Ning Tian's teasing voice slowly sounded. Crimson Soul's face turned green and black. Then, he gritted his teeth and turned into a ray of demonic chi, wanting to rush out again. But at this time, a ball of spiritual energy had already enveloped him. Can I let you run away under my nose? Ning Tian flipped his palm, and the spiritual energy that enveloped Crimson Soul's wisp of demonic soul brought him in front of him. He wouldn't do something like letting a tiger return to the mountain. Just like how an enemy that could be killed in one move would never use a second move. Speak, what exactly is the Pagoda Demon Tower that you speak of? Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a cold light as he asked indifferently. Humph. Crimson Soul snorted coldly, clearly not planning to say another word. Seeing this, Ning Tian couldn't be bothered to say anything more. With a flip of his palm, that terrifying spiritual energy directly enveloped Crimson Soul. He didn't plan to say anything more, and he wouldn't waste his breath either. He directly chose to obliterate him. You! Crimson Soul's face suddenly changed. Before he could say anything, his last wisp of demonic soul was directly obliterated. He didn't expect it until he died. This human race brat was actually so decisive in killing. After dealing with 2 demons, this was also Ning Tian's first time fighting with a demon. If not for the fact that he had the advantage of some deity realm pressure in the land of the fallen gods, dealing with these 2 demons wouldn't be so easy. Huff, Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief. Then, he slowly took out the Pagoda Demon Tower from his storage ring. Looking at the Pagoda Demon Tower in his palm, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a wisp of curiosity. The Pagoda Demon Tower in his hand slowly rotated. Vaguely, there was a trace of demonic chi leaking out. What exactly is this thing? Ning Tian muttered. Then, he made a bold decision. Using a trace of consciousness, he entered the Pagoda Demon Tower. He closed his eyes slightly. A wisp of consciousness circulated within. This was the Buddha Demon Pagoda. The surroundings were pitch black, and dense demonic chi filled the entire space. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared. Ning Tian appeared in the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Is this the interior of the Buddha's Demon Pagoda? What a powerful devil chi! Ning Tian murmured, his eyes filled with caution. He felt that it was difficult to move an inch in this place. Every step he took was a kind of torture. Host, this system does not recommend you to continue forward. Just as Ning Tian was about to walk forward, the system's voice rang out. What happened? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment and asked. This is only the first level of the Buddha's Demon Pagoda. Host, you are still too weak. This system suggests that you bring your 2 wives over. The system said slowly. Ning Tian rolled his eyes. Was there a system that publicly called its host weak? He didn't give him any face at all. Wait, what the hell is with 2 wives? Suddenly, Ning Tian reacted and scratched his head. Since when did he have 2 wives? Luo Wuqing's first wife and the Queen Mother of the West's second wife, the system said in a serious tone. System, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. The system said, Host, this system doesn't eat, so you can say whatever you want. Ning Tian's face darkened. Besides, host, think about it. Doesn't it feel good to be hugging each other? The system egged him on. Cough cough, it does feel good. Ning Tian coughed dryly and scratched his head. This was more than just good. This was so good that it felt like heaven. Yes, when the time comes, let's have some fun together. Together? System, you're not right. I'm a decent person. Ning Tian said with a straight face. A decent person? Heh, which decent person has 2 wives? A righteous retort from a decent system. Ning Tian was stunned. What the system said made sense. Forget it. That's all for now. Ning Tian ignored the system. After taking another look at the pitch-black space of the Buddha Demon Pagoda, he turned and left. According to the system, he was only at the first level of the Buddha Demon Pagoda. The first level was already so terrifying. What about the higher levels? Or, how many levels did this Buddha Demon Pagoda have? It seems like this bit of strength is far from enough to fully understand the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Ning Tian murmured and slowly exited the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Outside the land of the fallen gods. Ancestral Master, how much longer will it take? Yi Bei was anxious. More than 2 hours had passed, but there was no change in the land of the fallen gods. What's the hurry? Ning Tian's shadow said indifferently as his gaze fell on the center of the land of the fallen gods. The wind is coming soon. Really? Hearing this, Yi Bei was elated. The group of elders from Great Compassion Palace also looked toward the center of the land of the fallen gods. Would the abnormalities in the land of the fallen gods disappear as the ancestral master said? At this moment a gentle breeze blew past, and the sound of the wind was heard. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of wild wind erupted in the land of the fallen gods. This was the demon-extinguishing gale that Ning Tian had cast. Boom! In an instant, the entire land of the fallen gods was shrouded by the wild wind. Then, the dark clouds in the sky were blown away, and all the strange phenomena disappeared. Wind! The wind is really coming! Amazing! Amazing! The ancestral master was right. Seeing this, Yi Bei and the group of elders from Great Compassion Palace widened their eyes in excitement. It was really as the ancestral master said. The wind was coming. Seeing this, Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. Then, without anyone noticing, his body slowly dissipated. At this moment, a void door opened in the space beside him, and Ning Tian stepped out of it. At this moment, he had already taken off the ice silkworm mask on his face. How is it? This strange phenomenon will eventually be blown away by the wind. Ning Tian walked over with a smile. It's really as the ancestral master said. Yi Bei's heart, which was hanging in the air, was finally at ease. Their gazes towards Ning Tian became more and more respectful. He was indeed the legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult and the eternal god. It was as if everything was going according to the ancestral master's will. Father. At this moment, Yi Yu and the others slowly walked out of the land of the fallen god. Without the strange phenomenon, they could naturally come out of the land of the fallen gods. You are? Hearing the voice, Yi Bei's eyes flashed with excitement, and he quickly walked over. Fortunately, you are all fine. Seeing that his daughter was safe and sound, Yi Bei heaved a sigh of relief. But the several tens of martial brothers and sisters all died in there. Yi Yu did not rejoice at surviving the disaster. Instead, she was slightly dazed. Chapter 250. Yi Bei was taken aback when he heard that and remained silent for a long time. He felt terrible about losing so many elite disciples, but there was nothing he could do about it. It was fortunate that Yi Yu and the rest were able to return. Let's go, Yura. I'll bring you to meet a big shot. When he said this, Yi Bei was already scheming in his heart. His heart was also excited. A big shot? Yi Yu and the rest were stunned when they heard that. They were confused when they saw how excited Yi Bei was. Palace Master was a God Emperor realm expert. Who exactly was this person that could make him so agitated? Shortly after, Yi Yu and the others followed Yi Bei's footsteps and slowly walked over. The group of disciples was stunned when they saw Ning Tian. F***ck. He's so handsome. I just saw that ugly senior. Now that I see this young master, I feel like my eyes have been cleansed. The group of Great Compassion Palace disciples discussed among themselves and their eyes lit up. Yi Yu was also slightly dazed and her red lips parted slightly. The young man in front of her was many times more handsome than any of the young talents she had seen in the northern region. However, Yi Yu frowned and walked over. She bowed and said, "Young master, have we met before?" She kept feeling that the Ning Tian in front of her seemed to have seen her somewhere before. There was a sense of familiarity. Ning Tian was stunned when he heard Yi Yu's words. He could not help but take a deep look at Yi Yu. This woman's intuition was too accurate. "Miss, I'm afraid you're overthinking. We haven't met before." Ning Tian smiled and shook his head. It was unknown how many female disciples of the Great Compassion Palace were attracted by this smile. Yi Yu was also slightly dazed. When she came back to her senses, she smiled apologetically. "It seems like I'm overthinking. You've been in the northern region all year round. How could you have met the ancestral master?" Yi Bei chuckled as he spoke. "Ancestral master?" Yi Yu was stunned. She was shocked and covered her red lips in disbelief. "Father, do you mean that he's a legendary ancestral master? Legendary patriarch? Could it be the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult? Great Emperor!" Upon hearing this, the expressions of the Great Compassion Palace's disciples changed instantly. Their eyes were filled with admiration and awe. "You shocked Yi Yu. You shocked a group of Great Compassion Palace disciples. Reward: Aura Cultivation plus 5,000. At this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Absorbing Faith Energy. Faith Energy plus 1. Faith Energy plus 2. Faith Energy plus 1. Current stored Faith Energy: 800,010,000. As expected, my believers are everywhere. Ning Tian felt the faith energy in his body increase, and he couldn't help but understand the truth of this sentence. However, it was good to have faith energy. Now, he was only 2,000 away from gathering the power of 10,000 different levels of faith. "Ancestral Master, I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it." At this moment, Yi Bei rolled his eyes and came over. "What is it?" Ning Tian glanced at him and said indifferently, "That's right. What do you think of my daughter?" Yi Bei chuckled. As soon as he said that, Ning Tian understood what Yi Bei wanted to do. He glanced at Yi Yu. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe her as a beauty with fair skin and long legs. She was an out-and-out beauty. Yi Yu blushed when she heard her father's words. She also understood. However, she didn't show much resistance. Instead, she was looking forward to it. After all, this was her ancestral master. Moreover, she was very confident in her appearance. After all, she was ranked first among the beauties in the entire northern region. Oh, and then? However, Ning Tian only glanced at her once before looking away indifferently. Yi Bei was stunned when he heard Ning Tian's words. Why didn't this ancestral master follow the script? Ahem. He came to his senses and coughed dryly before saying, "Ancestral master, shouldn't a great emperor like you be treated like an emperor? So, Her Majesty wouldn't mind if you have multiple wives and concubines, right? So, ancestral master, why don't you take my daughter as your concubine?" After Yi Bei finished speaking, he looked at Ning Tian with a face full of anticipation. Although it was only a concubine, it didn't seem to fit her identity as the daughter of the palace master of the Great Compassion Palace. However, it also depended on whose concubine she was. This was the legendary ancestral master's concubine. It wasn't shameful at all. At the side, Yi Yu blushed. Her ancestral master was an almost perfect man. Which girl in the heavenly spirit realm wouldn't like him? Even the disciples and elders of the Great Compassion Palace were looking forward to it. If they were to have a relationship with the ancestral master, who in the entire northern region would dare to provoke them? "I'm not interested." Under everyone's gaze, Ning Tian looked indifferent and shook his head. Although Yi Yu was a rare beauty, he didn't have any intention of taking her in. He didn't have to take in a beautiful woman just because he saw one. It wasn't necessary. You're not interested?" When Ning Tian said this, the disciples of the Great Compassion Palace around him were disappointed. A trace of disappointment flashed across Yi Yu's beautiful eyes, and she sighed faintly. "Ancestral Master, Yi Bei was still unwilling. Even if you don't want to be a concubine, you can be a bed-warming maid. Shut up. Ning Tian glanced at him indifferently, his eyes full of coldness. Although he was an old pervert, he wasn't like that to everyone. Only those who could make him stand up. Only Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West. As for the other women? Heh. Yes, sensing the coldness in Ning Tian's eyes, Yi Bei didn't dare to say anything even if he was unwilling. After all, the person in front of him was his ancestral master. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky. Phew! I'm finally back. Everyone looked over. It was ancestral master Tianbei, who was sent flying by Ning Tian with his face. Ancestral master, how far have you flown? Yi Bei looked at ancestral master Tianbei, who was descending from the sky with a puzzled expression. Not far, just to the Divine Land. I also had a cup of tea with some old friends in the Divine Land city. Ancestral master Tianbei coughed and said slowly, Divine Land? Hearing this, Yi Bei and the other elders of the Great Compassion Palace were shocked. The northern state was very far away from the Divine Land. Ancestral Master Tianbei was too good at flying, right? He had crossed half of the Sky Spirit realm in an instant. You're back? Since you're back, give me the 100,000 mu of herb fields that were supposed to be given to me. At this moment, Ning Tian's indifferent voice sounded from the side. Hearing Ning Tian's voice, Ancestral Master Tianbei's whole body trembled, and his eyes were full of awe. His old friend in the Divine Land City was the ruler of the theocracy. When he learned that the ruler of the theocracy was also cheated by the Ancestral Master, he realized that he was a fool. Why did he suspect the Ancestral Master? Yes, Ancestral Master. I'll immediately prepare 100,000 mu of herb fields for you. Chapter 251. Great Compassion Palace. All the disciples looked at the highest point of Great Compassion Palace. Their gazes were filled with 30% worship and 70% reverence. There was a young man sitting cross-legged there, and he had a famous name that was enough to shake the entire heavenly spirit region. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult. Above the cliff, a gentle breeze blew past. Ning Tian sat cross-legged on the edge of the cliff, feeling the weak spiritual energy flowing in the air. After the battle and absorbing a lot of spiritual energy, he vaguely felt that there were signs of a breakthrough in his body. Phew, it's been almost a week since the last breakthrough. It's not too much to break through 1 star in a week, Ning Tian said softly with a glimmer in his eyes. 1 star in a week was not too fast or too slow. However, if those cultivators who had only broken through 1 star in a few decades heard this, they would probably chop him up with a knife. Phew, Ning Tian breathed a sigh of relief. He could try to break through while great ancestor Tianbei was preparing 100,000 mu of herb fields. Then, he activated the celestial god record and began to cultivate. Soon, the spiritual energy around Ning Tian began to circulate. The entire mountain top of Great Compassion Palace was shrouded in rich spiritual energy. It was as if they had arrived at a paradise. The disciples of Great Compassion Palace widened their eyes when they saw this scene. From their point of view, Ning Tian was just sitting cross-legged, but there was a steady flow of spiritual energy around him. Amazing! The male disciples of Great Compassion Palace widened their eyes. They were envious. If the spiritual energy did not come to them, they would go to the spiritual energy. But the patriarch was different. The spiritual energy was rushing to the patriarch as if it was in a hurry to be reincarnated. So handsome! He's indeed my ideal partner. The female disciples of the Great Compassion Palace seemed to be infatuated. Their beautiful eyes sparkled as they looked at Ning Tian. Senior sister, you're using the patriarch as your ideal partner? I'm afraid you won't be able to get married for the rest of your life. A junior sister could not help but ridicule her senior sister. You're right. Half a patriarch then. The senior marshal sister was taken aback for a moment before nodding thoughtfully. Then, he looked at his junior sister and asked curiously, "Junior sister, why do you keep blinking at the ancestral master?" "Senior sister, I'm trying my best to engrave the appearance of the patriarch in my mind. There's a saying that goes, what you think about in the day you dream about at night. If I remember the ancestral master, then the ancestral master might come to me in my dreams at night." The junior sister from Great Compassion Palace said seriously. "I see. I want one too. I want to have a wet dream." Senior sister's wolf-like gaze landed on Ningtian. Boom! At this time, a rumbling sound came from the cliff. A steady stream of spirit chi flowed towards Ningtian. "Patriarch, what are you trying to do?" The disciples of Great Compassion Palace were attracted to the scene. In their eyes, Ningtian was a nine tribulations great emperor. Therefore, they did not know that this seemingly earth-shattering phenomenon was actually Ningtian breaking through. "Although I don't know what the ancestral master is trying to do, I really want to shout those 8 words. A disciple from Great Compassion Palace, who had just returned from West Continent, said slowly. 8 words? Which 8 words? The surrounding disciples of Great Compassion Palace looked at the disciple in confusion. The disciple smiled mysteriously. His eyes were shining with golden light as he said slowly, "I passed by West Continent and heard that as long as I sincerely shout Patriarch is awesome and eternal God, I'll gain incredible benefits. Therefore I'll shout Patriarch first." After saying that, the disciple took a deep breath and put on a serious look. Then, he shouted loudly, "Patriarch is awesome and eternal God." Boom! In an instant, an imposing aura appeared on his body. Then, he was sent flying. He landed heavily on the ground. Seeing this, many of the surrounding disciples were stunned. Their expressions changed. "Damn! Is this guy being punished by the heavens? But the ancestral master is awesome. He didn't lie, did he? Junior brother, are you okay?" The group of disciples from Great Compassion Palace looked at the disciple who had fallen on the ground and asked worriedly, "Silence. Silence." The disciples' mouths twitched. Shock. A disciple from Great Compassion Palace was punished by the heavens because he shouted the mysterious code of 8 words, while the disciples of Great Compassion Palace were stunned on the spot. Suddenly, the disciple who had fallen on the ground jumped up. He spat out blood and shouted excitedly, "F***ck. I broke through? Ha ha ha." The disciple laughed wildly. The more he laughed, the more blood flowed from his mouth. This was because he was shocked to find that he had broken through from 7-star Black Martial Master to 8-star Black Martial Master. Seeing the disciple's appearance and hearing his words, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace were dumbfounded. 3 question marks slowly appeared above his head. What the hell? He broke through just like that? Could it be, was it that mysterious code? The disciples seemed to have figured something out. Their eyes lit up, but they did not dare to make a move. "Junior brother, I'm enlightened. What about you?" A senior brother among the disciples of Great Compassion Palace muttered to himself. He was eager to make a move. "Senior brother, I'm enlightened too." The junior brother next to him nodded heavily. "So, are you ready?" "Yes." Then, the 2 of them took a deep breath and shouted with all their strength, "The ancestral master is awesome. He's a god forever." Everyone's eyes were on the 2 of them. Boom! Spiritual energy exploded from the 2 of them, and they were sent flying. However, when they were sent flying, the 2 of them revealed a blissful expression. After falling on the ground, the 2 of them quickly got up. Blood flowed from their mouths, but they were extremely excited. It was obvious that they had broken through too. Seeing this, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace no longer hesitated and shouted one after another. The mysterious code of 8 words echoed throughout Great Compassion Palace. The reason why they were able to achieve such an effect was because of their sincere worship and because Ning Tian hadn't closed off the faith cultivation array formation. They vomited blood to level up because they were weaker and could not bear the gift of the faith cultivation formation. When great ancestor Tianbei, Yi Bei, and a group of elders of Great Compassion Palace arrived, they saw many disciples lying in pools of blood. Their expressions changed immediately. F***CK. Who attacked the disciples of Great Compassion Palace? How dare they? Yi Bei's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with anger. The disciples lying in pools of blood made him think that they had met with misfortune. Behind him, Yi Yu and a group of elders were also pale. They had only gone to prepare 100,000 acres of herb fields for the ancestral master, and their home had been raided? This was outrageous. Chapter 252. Palace Master. No one did anything to the disciples. At this moment, a disciple stood out and said with a smile, "Can't you see that although the disciples are vomiting blood, their faces are very bright?" Yi Bei was stunned and observed carefully. The disciples were indeed as he said. Although they were lying in a pool of blood, they were smiling. Are they stupid? Yi Bei was puzzled. Immediately, the disciple slowly explained the cause of the matter. Hearing this, Yi Bei and the others' faces changed drastically. What? There's such a thing? Not only was Yi Bei dumbfounded, even Elder Tianbei, who had lived for thousands of years, had never seen such a scene. Shouting that the founder was awesome would give them a boost? There was such a good thing in the world? Yi Bei and the other elders were a little tempted. However, due to their pride, they were too embarrassed to shout it out loud. Thus, the elders looked at each other and did not say anything. If they couldn't shout it out loud, then what about whispering? Cough. At this moment, Yi Bei coughed and looked at the group of disciples. After all, he's the founder. It's not strange for him to have such an abnormality. However, I won't be able to compete with you guys on this level. Our cultivation bases are enough. Hearing this, the group of elders all nodded their heads in all seriousness. Hearing this, the group of disciples below was touched. As expected of the palace master and the elders, they were indeed considerate of the disciples. All right, hurry up and cultivate. Yi Bei waved his hand. Before he could finish speaking, a spiritual energy suddenly blasted on his body and his cultivation rose a little. Seeing this scene, Yi Bei was stunned. The group of disciples was also stunned. The surroundings were silent. Only Yi Bei was going crazy. Damn. What's going on? He silently said in his heart, "The founder is awesome. Is there an effect even if he's a god forever?" Although he said that, he could not help but try it in his heart. However, what was shocking was that even if he said it in his heart, it was still effective. It's over, it's over. My reputation is gone. Feeling the strange gazes of the disciples, Yi Bei sighed in his heart. However, at this moment, boom, 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 streaks of spiritual qi appeared on the group of Great Compassion Palace elders who had just said that they would not compete with the disciples. At this moment, everyone was silent. All of them kept saying that they wouldn't, but how fragrant! You guys. Sigh, your mouths say no, but your bodies are quite honest. At the side, great ancestor Tianbei shook his head and sighed. Yi Bei and the others were the ones who spoke ill of their mouths, but their bodies were upright. Hearing this, Yi Bei and the others looked guilty. Learn from this old man never, before great ancestor Tianbei could finish his words. A burst of spiritual energy erupted from his body. Ahem, that was an accident. His face turned red as he coughed dryly. Boom, boom, boom. But in the next moment, spiritual energy started to appear on his body, causing the group of disciples and elders to be dumbfounded. How many times had this old fellow secretly said that the ancestral master was awesome? This was great. Quan Jinxiang warned. Cough, cough. Cultivate, cultivate. Great ancestor Tian Bei coughed dryly and waved his hand. Only a fool would not take advantage of the benefit. The group of disciples fell silent and began to cultivate one by one. On the high cliff, Ning Tian was still a bit away from breaking through. Just as he sighed slightly and was about to give up, the system's voice sounded. You have shocked the disciples of the Great Compassion Palace. You have shocked the elders of the Great Compassion Palace. Reward: 10,000 spiritual energy cultivation base. The moment the spiritual energy cultivation base surged into his body, it was like a stone falling into a cup full of water, causing the water to overflow. Boom! Ning Tian's body shook as he released his aura. This was signs of a breakthrough. Congratulations, host, for breaking through. Current strength: 7 stars of the Holy Emperor Realm. Phew! Ning Tian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and slowly opened his eyes. A glimmer of light flashed in his clear eyes. He finally broke through. When he opened his eyes, he saw a group of disciples of the Great Compassion Palace. Each of them was covered in blood, but they were laughing wildly. He couldn't help but frown slightly. What happened to these guys? What are you guys doing? Ning Tian slowly opened his mouth and asked. When his voice rang out, the gazes of the group of disciples and elders all landed on him. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism and reverence. Ancestral Master, this is all thanks to your invincible power, Yi Bei said. Then, he slowly explained what had happened. Oh, I see. Ning Tian didn't mind. He didn't care about the cultivation of faith. Anyway, it could be replenished by him, so he didn't lose anything. Detected the power of faith. Absorbing the power of faith. Power of faith +1. Power of faith +1. Power of faith +2. Current storage of power of faith: 100,001,0000. Storage of power of faith of 10,000 level has been completed. That's it? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He had gained quite a lot from this trip. With the power of faith gathered, he had one more trump card in his hand. Tian Bei, are the 100,000 acres of herb fields ready? Ning Tian slowly got up and looked at Great Ancestor Tian Bei. It's ready. Great Ancestor Tian Bei nodded and then carefully handed a storage ring to Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, the 100,000 acres of herb fields are in this storage ring. Ning Tian nodded and put away the storage ring. He had already asked the Supreme Elder to go back. Now that the matter was almost settled, it was time to leave. The green hills do not change, and the green water flows forever. Everyone, we'll meet again if fate wills it. Hearing that Ning Tian was about to leave, Yi Bei and the others hurriedly sent him off. Farewell, Ancestral Master. Farewell, Ancestral Master. In the Great Compassion Palace, a series of deafening voices sounded. Ning Tian looked indifferent. He turned around and stepped into the void, disappearing from everyone's sight. Seeing this scene, Yi Bei and the others couldn't help but sigh. To think that a peerless powerhouse like the Ancestral Master would probably never see him again after this farewell. A day later, in the mountain gate of the Tianma cult, a figure appeared and cursed. F***ck, why is the North region so far away? If I had known earlier, the Supreme Elder would have come back first. It's too tiring to fly by yourself. This figure was Ning Tian. After an entire day and night, he finally flew back from the Great Compassion Palace. I'm so hungry, I want to eat steamed buns. He muttered and was ready to attack. At this moment, a stench assaulted him. He suddenly looked up and saw a bloody mouth suddenly appearing above his head. Roar. Ning Tian frowned and dodged immediately. Did this stupid lion eat people randomly? That's right, the owner of that bloody mouth was the Sealing Flame Lion King. Chapter 253. Roar? Seeing that its mouth had missed, the Lion King let out a lion's roar. It had finally familiarized itself with the Tianma cult's mountain gate in the past few days. This was much larger than when it was in the demonic beast forest. It thought that if it could bite an intruder to death today, it would be able to find its cheap master to exchange for a cute lioness. But it didn't expect that its mouth would miss. "Stupid jade lion, do you want to bite me?" At this moment, a familiar voice sounded in its ears, and its entire body trembled. It turned its head with some difficulty. Roar. After seeing that it was Ning Tian, its expression changed. Roar, the ceiling flame Lion King roared. Misunderstanding? I think you're itching for a beating. Ning Tian glanced at it coldly. Today, you'll have less demonic beast meat. Suddenly, the Lion King wanted to cry but had no tears. There was no lioness, and there was less meat. Life is finally making a move on me, the little lion cub. Oh right. Remember to go to the heavenly spring waterfall when you have time. Use the waterfall to wash your mouth. It's too smelly. Ning Tian looked at the Lion King with disdain. Roar. Hearing this, the Lion King shook its head in grievance. It had never heard that a lion had to brush its teeth. It was simply a disgrace in the lion world. Ning Tian couldn't be bothered with it. With a move, he headed in the direction of the demonic palace. Demonic palace. Supreme Elder, do you mean that my husband has already completed his task in the land of the fallen gods? Luo Wuqing's cold voice sounded from the main hall. Yes. The Grand Elder nodded. According to what the ancestral master said, that should be what he meant. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a faint light, and the worry in her heart instantly dissipated. He really did it. Then when will my husband return? The Grand Elder was stunned for a moment and scratched his head. I don't know. The ancestral master didn't tell me this. Okay. Luo Wuqing nodded and waved her jade-like hand. Grand Elder, you go rest first. Yes. Hearing this, a smile appeared on the Supreme Elder's face. *CK. I can finally rest. But before I rest, I'll take a look at the Royal Maiden painting first. At this moment, a figure slowly walked in from outside the hall. It was Ning Tian. Honey, come and let your husband take a look at your body. I haven't seen you for a few days. I wonder if you've gained weight. Ning Tian entered the hall and stepped into the void. He instantly teleported dozens of meters away. Then, he stretched out his hand and wrapped it around her slender waist. Not bad, not bad. Not much meat, not much. As he spoke, his hands were still restless. Within the main hall, a group of elders were humming a tune as they looked to the side. Who would dare to look? This guy. Feeling the warmth, Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment. That familiar aura made her feel intoxicated. Forget it, let him be. Luo Wuqing sighed in her heart and simply did not bother to struggle. Tisk, tisk. As soon as you come back, you want to take advantage of your wife? Sure enough, you're a big pervert. At this moment, a playful voice sounded. In the void, Queen Mother of the West jumped out and looked at the two who were hugging each other sourly. Hey woman, why are you still here? Seeing that Queen Mother of the West was still there, Ning Tian could not help but be stunned for a moment. He thought that this woman should have left long ago. It's my pleasure. Queen Mother of the West snorted and then said, In the day when you weren't here, I even hugged your wife to sleep. Hearing this, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Two women, hugged to sleep? What kind of *king scene was this? Can you imagine two stunning beauties hugging each other to sleep on the bed? If they were not wearing clothes, that scene cough. At this moment, Ning Tian's mind was filled with colors. Your husband has a nosebleed. At this moment, Queen Mother of the West exclaimed. Her red lips were slightly opened and her beautiful eyes were full of ridicule. Luo Wuqing was stunned and looked at Ning Tian. Indeed, he saw that nosebleed was flowing down. Husband, are you alright? Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of worry. Cough, I'm fine. Ning Tian waved his hand and used his spiritual energy to wipe the nosebleed. What can happen to him? He's an old pervert. Queen Mother of the West's eyes were full of ridicule. This Queen Mother of the West loved to speak the truth. By the way, I suddenly thought of a very serious matter. At this moment, Ning Tian looked at the two women with a serious face. Huh! The two women were stunned for a moment. Their beautiful eyes were full of doubts as they looked at Ning Tian. It was just that. Next time when the two of you sleep, do you want to consider bringing me along? Ning Tian said with a straight face. Luo Wuqing, Queen Mother of the West. The two women were stunned for a moment. Their reactions were different. Haha, Queen Mother of the West covered her mouth and chuckled. She raised her chest at Ning Tian teasingly. Okay. How about tonight? However, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyebrows quickly relaxed after frowning. Her eyes fell on Ning Tian. Her red lips moved slightly. Do you want it? Huh? Hearing that, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Want it? Yes. As soon as he said that, he was stunned for a moment. When he saw the cold light in Luo Wuqing's eyes, he immediately reacted and shook his head violently. No, I don't want it. Damn. If he said that he wanted it, he was afraid that he would lose his brother forever. Cough. Just kidding. Ning Tian scratched his head. The Queen Mother of the West pursed her lips and complained silently. Pfft, you have the guts to be lecherous, but you don't have the heart to be lecherous. Ning Tian decisively ignored her. Then, he looked at the two women and finally said seriously, Honey, Queen Mother of the West, let's go to the study. Study? At the mention of the study, Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment. She immediately thought of the madness that day. Queen Mother of the West even noticed. She gritted her teeth and said coldly, Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to the room. Hearing that, Ning Tian didn't think much of it. Anyway, if they were talking about serious matters, it was the same everywhere. Even if they didn't talk about serious matters, the room was convenient. From Ning Tian's fantasy. Immediately, the three of them stepped into the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the heavenly demon palace, a group of elders looked at each other. Sigh. The Grand Elder sighed faintly. Young people are young people. They still have to go to the room to discuss some very important matters. Forget it. I'd better go look at the Royal Maiden painting. I'm old and useless. In the room. It was filled with the unique fragrance of a woman. Then, three people appeared from the void. The Queen Mother of the West directly lay on the bed, where the two of them often fought with a satisfied look on her face. Ancestral Master, what do you want to say? The Queen Mother of the West's faint voice sounded. Chapter 254. Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian in confusion. Ning Tian smiled mysteriously when he saw the two girls looking at him curiously. He was not in a hurry to explain. Instead, he looked at Luo Wuqing. Honey, use your spiritual energy to seal the entire room. To take out the Buddha demon pagoda, he had to be fully prepared. After all, he could take out the Buddha demon pagoda without fear because he was in the land of the fallen gods and had the aura of a godly state expert. But now that he was out of the land of the fallen gods, no one knew what would happen to the Buddha demon pagoda once it was free of the aura of the land of the fallen gods. Luo Wuqing was slightly stunned when she saw Ning Tian's serious look. Then, she nodded without hesitation. A wisp of spiritual energy appeared on her hand and shook slightly. The aura of a great emperor shrouded the entire room. Ning Tian was still worried. He looked at the Queen Mother of the West and asked her to do the same. The Queen Mother of the West did not suspect anything. Soon, the room was shrouded by the aura. The aura of 2 tribulations great emperors circulated in the small room. At this moment, the two girls were even more curious. What could it be that made Ning Tian so cautious and use the aura of 2 Tribulation's great emperors? He. Ning Tian smiled mysteriously and said in a low voice, "Come, let me show you a big treasure." Big treasure? The two girls were stunned. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of doubt, her face innocent. The Queen Mother of the West licked her red lip. Her eyes were full of ridicule. Patriarch's big treasure? Could it be? The two girls were clearly contrasted. One of them had been through hundreds of battles, but was incomparably pure. The other was inexperienced but full of colors. Then, under the expectant and confused gazes of the two girls, Ning Tian's storage ring shone. Then, he flipped his hand and a small black pagoda appeared in his palm. This is... The two girls were stunned and puzzled. Boom! At this moment, a ferocious demonic aura burst out from the small pagoda. Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West's faces turned cold. Their brows furrowed and their eyes turned grave. What a powerful demonic aura! Husband, could this be the demonic god's relic? Luo Wuqing's gaze fell on the small black tower. His expression was grave. Yes. Ning Tian smiled and nodded. This thing is indeed. Suddenly, before he could finish speaking, a dense demonic chi emerged from the Buddha's devil pagoda. Boom! Bang! In the next moment, Ning Tian was sent flying by this wave of demonic chi. Husband! Patriarch! The two women's complexions changed. They turned their jade-like hands slightly, and the spiritual energy in the entire room was instantly mobilized. Ning Tian slammed heavily into the wall. Fortunately, the entire room was filled with the two women's spiritual energy. This violent collision did not affect him much. If Ning Tian had not asked the two women to use their spiritual energy to envelop the room, he would have been sent flying out of the room. I'm fine. Let's look at the Buddha's devil pagoda first. Ning Tian climbed up from the ground and waved his hand. He looked at the Buddha's devil pagoda that was floating in the air and constantly releasing demonic chi. It was as if something strange would happen if he did not control it. Yes. Luo Wuqing nodded and looked coldly at the Buddha's devil pagoda. Her beautiful face was covered with frost. She raised her jade-like hands slightly and mobilized the terrifying spiritual energy. All the spiritual energy in the entire room was mobilized. The great emperor's aura turned into an invisible cage and trapped the Buddha's devil pagoda within it. All of the demonic chi was trapped to death. Tisk, tisk. Is this the husband-protector demon? At the side, the Queen Mother of the West could feel the chilling aura from Luo Wuqing. Waves of terrifying aura came one after another, and she could not help but twitch her lips. Phew, this thing's demonic chi is so powerful. Seeing that the Buddha's devil pagoda was suppressed by Luo Wuqing, Ning Tian could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had the foresight. Otherwise, once the Buddha's devil pagoda released its demonic chi, he did not know what would happen. Then, he slowly got up and walked toward the two women. Ah, ancestral master, your pants are gone again. The Queen Mother of the West covered her mouth and chuckled. Ning Tian was stunned. It turned out that under the explosion of the demonic chi, his clothes had been completely destroyed. Cough. Calm down. Ning Tian was not flustered. After all, there were only two women in the room. He leisurely changed his clothes. He could not help but complain in his heart. Is there no sturdier pants in this world? Why is it always my pants that get hurt? He shook his head slightly, looked at the Buddha's devil pagoda, and said softly, "Wife, Queen Mother of the West, this black pagoda is called the Buddha's devil pagoda. Have you heard of it?" Buddha's devil pagoda? Hearing this, the two women could not help but be stunned for a moment. After pondering for a moment, the two women shook their heads. Never heard of it. Hearing this, Ning Tian was silent for a moment and said slowly, "In the land of the fallen gods, I met people from the demon clan. I heard about it from them." Demon clan? Hearing this, the two women's faces changed and they frowned. Husband, you're not hurt, are you? Luo Wuqing's gaze was fixed on Ning Tian's body, and his eyes were filled with worry. Ancestral master, take off your clothes. Let me check for you. The Queen Mother of the West's eyes lit up, and she volunteered to pounce over. Ning Tian held the excited Queen Mother of the West and said indifferently, "Don't worry, I'm fine. It's just two heavenly venerables. They are not my match in the land of the fallen gods." Hearing this, Luo Wuqing heaved a sigh of relief. "I've entered the first level of this Buddha's devil pagoda. Unfortunately, with my strength, I can't enter it completely. So, I hope that the two of you can follow me in and find out what's going on." Ning Tian looked at the two women and said slowly, "Okay." Hearing Ning Tian's words, the two women did not reject and nodded lightly. They were also interested in this so-called Fien Celestial's relic. "Come, give me your hand." "Okay." Then, Ning Tian finally had a legitimate reason to hold the two women's hands at the same time. Two cold and soft hands fell into his hands, and Ning Tian's mind rippled slightly. Then, he looked at the Buddha's devil pagoda. With a thought, the three of them entered the Buddha's devil pagoda. First level of the Buddha's devil pagoda. The surrounding demonic chi was hazy, and three faint lights appeared. Ning Tian and the two women appeared in the Buddha's devil pagoda. Is this the first level of the Buddha's devil pagoda? The Queen Mother of the West narrowed her beautiful eyes, and her eyes were filled with caution as she looked around. As expected of a lost relic of the demon clan. "This demonic chi is really terrifying," she sighed. Even she was wary of the demonic chi in this place. One should know that this was only the first level. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.